everyone. Welcome to episode 164 of Floating Through Film. This week we continue our Ray series with probably two of his more popular ones outside of the Apu trilogy, which is like, if you, I might have to look in a second. Can you look up the rate of views on Letterboxd for like the Apu trilogy compared to the rest of the Ray movies? Cause
the drop off.
It's probably the sharpest drop off. So it's like a lot of directors have these where they're like, oh, just like, well, watch the essentials and get them out. Like,
well, the ones that are restored too. Like,
but these are restored too.
No, these ones are. Yeah.
So I'm like even wondering from these the drop off.
Yeah. Partha Panchali's 78K.
That's the highest. Honestly, that's lower than I was thinking.
Opera Sansar is 35K.
Okay.
Opera Jito is 36K.
Okay.
The Big City is 17K.
Okay, so we've already gone from the 3K. So went from 70K
30,
to 30Ks to 17K.
Charulata is 21K.
Oh, okay.
It's actually not bad.
A little higher.
I feel like after that, though, it's going to even drop.
I honestly thought Ray had...
So
Music Room's 18K.
But at least according to Letterboxd, these are, like I'm saying, outside of the Apu trilogy, these are the most popular ones.
Yeah.
Probably, like Blake is saying, these are restored. They're on Criterion. Easily accessible. Even though a lot of these movies are really accessible.
They are really accessible.
If you just look.
If you just look on YouTube.
Yeah, if you look on YouTube, race movies.
Not the greatest quality, but I mean, they're still great movies.
Yeah. Yeah. And like honestly, my topic really for this week, because I have a few topics, especially when we talk about Charlotta specifically. I want to kind of talk more about that one specifically. But my topic generally this week is I just have like some Ray quotes and kind of some like Ray, because he wrote a lot, just like general essays over the course of his life about films and stuff, which is like really interesting. And he's like a really good, like simple, like he has a really good, elegant way of writing too. And so like I just have some stuff I was gonna mention, but before I get into that, I wanted to ask you guys like, what do you guys think about the movies this week, without maybe going too specifically into each one, but like what do you think about, especially because they share one similarity, the actress. And I mean they actually share a lot of similarities. That's kind of that's why I say like I'm saving Charlotta, but both movies share like a lot of in common about like through the central character. But okay, before also I go on,
men.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys, what do you think? I'll start with you, Luke.
About like
I don't know, like what comes to your mind when I ask you about these two movies?
I mean, for
you said
me,
the men, like
well, yeah, like kind of like how like they're kind of about like the fragility of like the men's ego, at least like in terms of like their place in society. Yeah. Because it's in a way it's almost like the women are like, I guess like forging their own path. Yeah. Which is kind of breaking free of like the conservative society, I guess. I'm not an expert at all on on the side.
I think you're dead on.
But I think Big City especially is like that. Like even more explicitly so because of like her finding a job and like kind of being the breadwinner in a way, which is like a more progressive idea. Which I mean, I don't know if you have much about like his like political kind of like stances, Ray's. I don't know if you know much about it. But, like,
I mean, he was definitely liberal.
Liberal, okay.
Yeah, and you can tell that's why he's like making these kind of movies. It's like, he's coming out from that perspective.
No, yeah.
I know he wasn't like fully communist either. Okay. But like we'll see like in the week 4. So we're doing. And honestly, they'll kind of touch on in Days and Nights of the Forest, but week 4 especially, he'll kind of talk about some of these more issues in specific. You'll kind of see like where he leans, at least politically, a little more. Yeah. But I'm actually going to talk about that when we start with The Big City. Like, if these movies are feminist or not, what do you think about that? Like, because like you even asked me the question like, what is he politically? Yeah. You know, that's to me that's a good thing from a director. Like we were just right before we started recording. It's kind of interesting. We were talking about Ford and his politics and stuff. And I kind of like I like a director where you're like we don't know, or like you can have two totally different sides, or like a conservative and liberal can both have like totally two different things to say about him, and the director doesn't say anything or whatever. You know. Yeah. He kind of likes it that way. And you were mentioning the dialectic before about Ford, but that's kind of part of that too, where you can kind of show two things. And to me, that's like one of the beauties of cinema is you could, like via time, you can kind of show one side and then another side right after it, you know. And, you know, I was talking about that with contrast and stuff last week. Yeah. But I don't know. Was there anything else that comes to your mind?
I mean, the actress, what's her name?
Madhabi Mukherjee.
Yeah, I just don't want to pronounce that correctly.
Madhabi?
I don't want to offend all of India.
Madhabi? Mukherjee?
No, she's Mukherjee?
Yeah, Mukherjee.
Mukherjee, okay.
Yeah, see, that's not bad.
It feels weird when I'm saying it. I don't know what.
No, that was good.
Okay. Yeah, Mukherjee.
Yeah,
I feel weird
good.
calling her that, though. Like, just... Anyway.
That was good.
Yeah, she was really good.
Yeah.
But, like, I like her performances because it's not like... she's very, like... her performances are very subtle. She's very good. Like, that's kind of like... Those are kind of like the performances I generally prefer, I would say. But no, yeah, these are two great movies.
I mean, you mentioned her, like, apparently there was a Ray quote where someone asked him if basically... they asked him if Charu's the archetypal Ray woman, and he answered yes. But honestly, I think he's talking about Mukherjee too, just as an actress, like in both of these movies, because they're kind of similar roles in a way.
Wait, did she act in any of his other movies?
Yeah, she's in The Coward too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There might be another one I'm forgetting, but The Coward is actually.
She's in a God Talk movie too.
Honestly, I kind of like The Coward more than The Hero. I don't know. Damn.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it, but like the hero actually makes more sense for next week because like if we do this, these are the Mukherjee movies. Next week they'll be the Tagore movies. Even though she was in The World of Papu, she was the wife. She'll be in the next two movies next week. So I guess it fits better that way. But let me go to Blake. What do you think about these two movies?
Yeah, I love both these movies. Like Ray. He gets better even from here. Well, maybe not from Charulata, honestly. Charulata grew me on a lot this time, honestly.
Well, I should mention it was his favorite movie too.
Okay,
that he made.
That makes sense.
Like it makes a lot of sense. And these movies, like back to back, are really interesting watches, just because she's like Mukherjee is playing this basically caged bird in Charulata that has a lot of potential that is not allowed to express any potential until the very end, whenever. You're kind of assuming like this is the only. I'm pretty sure this is actually even true in Indian history. Like this was the only way women could actually do anything. Like they could write down things and send them into publications for people to publish. Yeah, but they couldn't. But like a lot of times, like they couldn't go out of the house. Yeah. Like they were literally stuck in the house like this.
Yes.
And it's like really interesting watching The Big City, obviously, because she's acting kind of the same way that she's doing in Charulata. But she, like what I mean by that is like she's very aware of what everyone around her is thinking and of the feelings of the men in her life, especially. Like she's very aware of that in both these movies, and in The Big City, it's just like it's almost like Charulata. The men, it's like a realization for the men that the women can't like have this potential almost, and The Big City is like the realization of that. Like this is almost I don't want to say their world because like obviously the men in her life in The Big City do not believe that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I do really love both these movies, though. They're very interesting contrasts, like you said. And Charulata is just there's a lot to love in that movie specifically. Yes. Honestly, The Big City too, though. Honestly,
no, we'll we're gonna get into it in a second
because I mean, like Ray loves shooting cities. Obviously, like we're gonna get to a few of those.
That's one of the things I was saying last week. Why, like that's why I was mentioning the views too. Like I know I even said this last week. Like it's not a good thing. Probably to say this while you're reviewing the movies, but like I wouldn't start.
Yeah.
Like if you were starting with Ray, I wouldn't start with those movies.
Yeah.
Because like Blake just said, he's and we even talked about last week. He's a city guy. He's a city boy, and he's we'll talk about this in The Big City, but he was basically like they were in a very confined space while shooting the movie, but like. It's just insane how many different shots he gets. Yes. And like Charulata's the same thing, even though that was shot all in studio. Like just the fact that they made it look realistic in like a little small area, just a few rooms, and like all the different angles and shots he gets. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, he's just like so good at shooting interior spaces and making them look elegant, and just like moving the camera too in all these tight spaces. But we'll get more into it specifically. I kind of want to mention just like. Because I wasn't sure like when I was going to mention just like kind of these like kind of like I was saying earlier, these Ray quotes that I wanted to mention talk about. So the first one I want to mention was this is probably my favorite, like just to kind of I think it's a good like theme for like how to describe how he approaches films, and it's like my favorite quote from him. So let me just read it first. Quote, apart from the actual creative work, filmmaking is exciting because it brings me closer to my country and my people. Each film contributes to a process of self-education, making me conscious of the enormous diversity of life around me. I find myself trying, through my films, to trace the underlying pattern that binds this life together. It is the true stuff of the cinema, this dizzying contrast of sight and sound and milieu, and it's a challenge for any filmmaker to try and orchestrate it and shape its various conflicting elements into a work of art. I love that quote. It's like, to me, like, I think it's just like it's a good way to describe how he approaches films. Where he's like, he's not too like, he's not really trying to say anything in terms of like teaching. You know, he's more observational, trying to like, he's like more like documentary. Like he sees all these aspects of life and he's trying to show them. You know, but instead of just like, you know, like a documentary where you just like put the camera and do nothing. He's like more like an artist. You know, like a painter trying to be observational. You know, they still have like a style. If that makes sense. No,
you could ever see that in Charulata. Because like there'll be like scenes where it is like kind of very like long takey or like just like more like realistic. Yeah. But then he'll have like these like sections where it's like holy shit, like some of the shit he's doing is crazy, like the dissolves or like the swing shot or like some like he'll just be doing something crazy with the camera or the editing.
Yes. I mean we're gonna talk about the opening scene a lot too because it's like one of my favorites in like just movie history.
Really?
And it's because it feels very simple.
We should do that as an
episode. Just like what?
We should do like a break episode where we just talk about our favorite like opening scenes.
Opening scene? I mean, okay. Opening scene.
This isn't even really an opening scene. It's just the credits basically of Charlotta he's talking about, right?
No, I'm talking about the opening scene. No, like the first 9 minutes.
Well, I'm assuming that isn't
because I was like the opening credits of Charlotte are amazing.
Well, yeah, that actually is part of the opening scene. It's the same shot. It's the same scene. It just does zoom out and then she gets out.
We should do that as a break episode.
That would be good. I'd have to think about that. But see, that's like, my thing is like, are we just talking about our favorite movies again? But just like it's a different
we
style
could, like,
of favorite movies.
I don't know. We'd have to. I don't know. We'll talk about it. I guess.
It'd be different maybe if we did like a commentary or something. Oh, okay, we'll talk about it later. But because I mentioned style, like when I finished talking about Ray, and so like my next quote is honestly, I think this is a really great. I think it's a really great, simple quote, but it helps me like kind of understand like why certain directors gravitate to certain kind of stories. So let me just read the quote first. He says, quote, I think that the style of a particular film is dictated by its theme. Actually, it is the stylistic consistency in a film that makes it a work of art. Directors like Hitchcock, Kazan, Cocteau, Orson Welles have a strong stamp of their individuality of their films due to their preferences for a particular subject. You will notice that there are certain mannerisms, certain cinematic phrases, which a director might prefer. Take, for instance, Hitchcock. He doesn't make anything but suspense films, or the violence and sex in Kazan. Hitchcock, I mean, yeah, he basically only made suspense films.
I'm trying to think if like...
But that's the thing, he's drawn to that kind of element of film, of like how it can like make an audience, like how to make an audience suspenseful. And so like he's saying, he's drawn to certain stories that do that, you know? And I think that's really important to like directors that are just like will be like a journeyman, you know, and just do anything. Versus directors like even if they will do like stories from other scripts from others, they'll only do certain scripts because like Wells is a really good example for me, especially when like Deleuze talks about Wells, like how he's drawn to these like magician kind of like characters basically. Because he sees them as like filmmakers, you know, but like he's drawn to those types of stories, you know, where like the narrator's unreliable,
or like there's like paranoid.
Yes, but that means you can only do certain types of stories. That's not a bad thing. It's just like he's drawn to those because like his style is also.
Do you think there's any filmmakers that like kind of like go against that?
I don't think that's what I'm trying to say. It's like a filmmaker shouldn't be like to me. A style is a director in a way, you know. Like that's why Ozu obviously is like he's like the
also
guy.
Ron Howard. He'd probably be the exact opposite.
Well, say he's the journeyman type or whatever.
The journeyman that doesn't have a stamp, though.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I meant like more like
maybe I haven't seen enough from him. I don't know.
Maybe more about like the theme is like.
But journeyman's not even bad because like you can put your stamp of individual based on.
But like more about like the theme or whatever he said like.
Like what do you mean by that? Like because he says the style of a particular film is dictated by its theme.
Yeah.
So like what do you mean like?
Do you think there's anything that like anyone that like goes against that specifically?
where instead of style being dictated by the theme, you're saying the theme is dictated by the style,
or just like something like that. I don't know. I was trying to think.
You'd have to tell me what you mean more.
I know. I'm trying to like think though. That's why I was like kind of like.
Because to me, that's like in a way you're saying that's what a film should be. Like the style of the film should be dictated by theme. You know, like it should flow that way instead of the reverse, where like you're trying to impose a style on a theme. Does that make sense?
Kind of, in a way.
I guess that's. I guess.
What even is theme though? Then.
Like a theme of a movie, you know, like it can be kind of like it's not simple to say, but I guess most films have like a theme of like what it's trying to do. I guess I don't know, like Charulata. What do you think the theme of that one is? Because I think Blake kind of touched on it. At least because to me, the more I've watched it, like it's become less about the romance in the literal sense, and it's become more about like this idea of like creativity and almost like. Breaking free of that, of your own like little literal space, you know, how creativity can be a way to do that. But then almost like Amal, the guy, he's like kind of this. He's the one that helps her notice that basically. Yeah. And that's why she panics when he's gonna leave and stuff. I mean, we'll talk about it more, but like to me, that's what the theme of that movie is. Okay. And so the way it's shot, the style, the way he approaches it, comes from that. It has to flow from that. That's kind of what he's saying, you know. And like a kind of false movie could be like where you go in being like, I want to apply all these stylistic elements without ever thinking about the theme first, you know, like I want to do these visual effects or these visual flares or like these fades or whatever you use, but like you're not thinking about how it even like impacts the theme of the film first.
Okay, interesting.
But like I do think but you asked me if there's someone who doesn't. I think Ozu is kind of interesting, or like even some of the directors I love that are kind of interesting because like. Ozu, he like imposes in a way his kind of like flow of style that's like outside of the narrative itself, you know. I think that's what makes him less naturalistic than even Ray in a sense. Yeah. Where it feels like Ray's camera's kind of hiding and like kind of shooting more naturalistic scenes versus Ozu's is like, or Bresson, they're both like to me a little more fake.
Yeah, I was saying because Bresson. I don't know because I remember like you saying like Bresson didn't really like want to like. Bresson's whole thing was literally not even thinking about like the just presenting the images like as they are, and not necessarily even thinking about the theme itself. Maybe I'm mischaracterizing that. I don't know, but
I don't know if he would say theme.
Yeah.
Also, presenting the images as they are, we've talked about, is already a complicated thing. You go listen to our Bazin episode.
Yeah.
Because like it's funny. Like Bresson he gets called also very naturalistic too by some people.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, why like if every shot is like he's trying to literally make people models.
Yeah.
Anti-naturalistic.
Yeah.
Where does the naturalism come from? It's interesting. You could say that also agrees with what Ray is saying, where his style is still flows from that theme of trying to achieve some kind of essential minimalism or whatever.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to mention before we get to the movie specifically. And especially watching both of these, it's like this is. I'm gonna read the one. Like you could say another one of my favorite Ray quotes in a second, but it really stuck out watching these two movies specifically. Is like basically how interested he is in people having these moments of realization or thinking. You know, basically these moments of like people thinking in their head without ever saying. And they'll never say it like out loud, but you're supposed to let the audience know what's going on. You know, the camera will kind of come close. And like, you'll see like basically thinking like some kind of change is going to happen. Like the big city, obviously, the big one is she decides to get a job. You know. But let me read the quote first, where he says, "There's probably some streak of mysticism or spiritualism in our blood. This whole business of creation, of the ideas that come in a flash, cannot be explained by science. It cannot. I don't know what can explain it, but I know that the best ideas come at moments when you're not even thinking of it. It's a very private thing, really." And he was like talking about filmmaking, but like to me, it's like it even makes sense of like you can see that in the films themselves of like he's really interested in these moments of like people having these like basic moments of realization and kind of these shifts that they're gonna decide to do something, or you know, and then kind of related to that, I wanted to read because he has this like article on the silent cinema and like how much he loves it and stuff, and how like people are like, basically, it's like dumb when people say like film kind of evolved with silent cinema, where he's like says people instead silent cinema should be viewed as some kind of thing, you know, some stuff we've talked about. But he talks about Griffith, and it's kind of related to this idea I'm talking about of like he loves people's faces when they're having this moment of realization. So let me read this quote about Griffith where he says, quote, "As one who has come into the field at an advanced stage in its development of the medium, I can't help but marvel at the way the pioneers made discoveries about unique properties of the brand new art form. What an extraordinary thrill it must have been to Griffith to realize that you can move your camera close to an actor, catch a movement of his eyes, and convey a shade or feeling that no actor on the stage could ever hope to convey to his audience." First, like, I mean, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory about what I'm trying to talk about. It's like this idea of like conveying a idea in close-up. Because like I think theater would be the first thing that comes to people's mind. Like to me, that's the one difference, you know, of like basically a close-up of face or a close-up of a hand or something. Yeah, you know, being able to
theater can't draw your attention
that
like
way.
That. Yeah,
it changes so drastically of a close-up and then all of a sudden to a wide out and then a
cool. Because in theater you're always. I feel like in theater, I'm not like a theater expert by any means, but I feel like when you're watching a play, you can't like you see the whole stage, everything going on, but like with the film and like it's the framing of it, you can kind of like I don't know single something out. Because I mean, you could definitely draw attention, I guess, to stuff in theater, but
not in the same way.
Not in the same way.
Exactly, you know, what makes them different. Then he goes on to talk about, and this is going to make so much sense to me, where like it's actually the movie. I mean, I think about this with a lot of films where I'm like, the first thing that if I think about a movie and the first thing I think of is a close up of someone's face, like what movie comes to your head?
Passenger.
Better Tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a really good one too. But it's not one face.
But it's like Passion Joan of Arc.
That's the only difference.
I feel like Passion of Arc is like the close-up.
But it is. It still is. It's Passion Joan.
It's like...
But because he has this great... I'm going to read the whole quote because it's great. Because like also it's... This one comes very close to it, especially Charulata, like her face in this movie. But like, let me read the quote. "The Passion of Joan of Arc represents the summit of the silent cinema if you leave out the comedies of Chaplin and Buster Keaton. It is one of the film in the present series that has not dated one bit in its psychological exploration and the means explored for this purpose, and it is as modern as Antonioni. It contains the best single performance ever recorded in a film, a performance that has got nothing of the theater in it. It is the precision and expressive range of its photography, in the depths of its emotional intensity, and the simplicity and exactitude of its means employed. It remains the single greatest reason for the cinema to be regarded as an art, and for the silent cinema to be considered as a valid and self-sufficient form of expression." So damn, yeah, you can tell he loves it. But also this, like what I'm saying, this whole belief in like what film can do without words. It's like literally just coming, like showing you a face in a new way, you know, and like hanging on it and like
a frame, like a face like isolated,
yes,
just like alienated from the world,
and then letting your thoughts kind of arise from that, you know.
I mean, yeah, like
aided by the editing a lot of the times as well. But
I mean, yeah, Deleuze has that like amazing quote about it.
I mean, that's what film like you
exactly,
saying.
Yeah.
Because the Deleuze, like when what Deleuze wrote about it, like
we read that on the podcast.
No, I mean,
before, right?
but like it's like so good.
It's
insane.
Do we have to read it again? I mean,
yeah, you kind of have to. I guess it's like it's like a quote. It's like one of the best like things I've ever like read about. Like one of the best writings about a film I think I've ever read.
I mean, you haven't read Deleuze yet, dude. You just gotta read.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard. It's just such.
I gotta lock in. I know.
Like none of us are watching movies that much, real. Just to out us.
No. Soon. No, I'm gonna lock in soon.
We'll
Trust
see.
me. Trust me.
We're just taking.
I just gotta break. Taking a little bit to get it started, but summer 25 will be.
But let me read this because you're. I mean, it fits in this whole theme, this general idea I'm talking about too. So let me read. This is from Cinema One, the movement image. Quote, "The expression of an isolated face as a whole which is intelligible by itself. We have nothing to add to it by thought, nor have we anything to add to that which is of space or time. When a face that we have just seen in the middle of a crowd is detached from its surroundings, put into relief, it is as if we have suddenly face to face with it. Or furthermore, if we have seen it before in a large room, we will no longer think of this when we scrutinize the face in close-up. For the expression of a face and the signification of this expression have no relation or connection with space. Faced with an isolated face, we do not perceive space. Our sensation of space is abolished. A dimension of another order is open to us. Yeah. No, that's a great quote. But I think we can go ahead and get into the big city. I don't know. Let's start with you this time, Blake. What do you think about the big city specifically? What comes to your mind?
No, yeah, I like the big city a lot. It was my favorite Ray movie whenever I first watched them, probably back in like 2018, 2019. Not going to be my favorite at the end of this podcast, I don't think. Still love it though. Fantastic movie. I mean, anything with Mukherjee in it, I'm going to frankly love, honestly, because I do love her. Like, she has the aura, as we say. She really does. But
the aura.
She does. But
not just aura, just it's the
it's
aura.
The aura.
It's
she is the aura.
Interesting.
No, it really is all about her, though. Like, this movie it's not all about her, obviously, in the literal sense, because it is about the family, but it really is about, like, kind of this new India and what is happening to the and like kind of like what's causing this strife in the family unit kind of now, because that's obviously the biggest probably thought on the mind of this movie is like, how are the men in handling the situation along with how are the women handling the situation? I don't know. Or is it, he doesn't even like tell you like what's right or wrong in either of these movies really. He just like lets you think what you will about it. But no, I do like it though, because it's just like, it's also a really fun watch, just kind of watching her kind of like blossom in this new role in life, basically. Yes. Because as I think I've mentioned in Pather Panchali, that quote from the mom of her saying like, I have dreams too. Yes. Like, these movies are kind of like Ray kind of exploring that. Like, the women are kind of like finally allowed to dream almost now, but
at least like how society is, at least because he's still at the end of the day, I'm going to mention a second, a very like realistic director. He tries to, I should have read this quote at the beginning, but he said this right after making the Apu trilogy. Basically how he now wanted to concentrate on contemporary themes. And he said like, quote, work with living reality. So like basically you can kind of tell that, you know, these films are like kind of less poetic in that kind of the Apu trilogy sense and more, you know, realistic. But so he's trying to still work within that framework, but like you said, he still kind of explore that idea of like, what are women allowed to do now? It's
funny that he says that, because both these movies, they still have that like wonder to them of like this new world kind of opening to these women at the very least. But
yeah, no, I agree.
But yeah, no, love this movie though.
What about you, Luke?
I mean, I kind of said before, like, I find the ideas very interesting. Like, kind of like the idea of like, because like basically like throughout all of like human history, it feels like the men have been like the more like, you know, dominant one, but now like kind of like, I guess like in this like, I mean, I'm assuming because like India was a colonized nation, and then like once they like kind of gained independence, they kind of slowly started to kind of unravel those values. Because like I think a lot of people like a lot of times when a nation is like oppressed or like colonized or whatever, a lot of times their social beliefs are quite far behind because of it. Like you see with like Palestine, like I don't get into this, but like, you know, you see like a lot of like the Israel like Zionists will say like, oh, but like if you're gay in Palestine, they'll kill you or whatever. It was like, well, I mean, first of all, like a big reason why their allies are so behind is because of like how like oppressed they are. And like also bombing them is not going to help with that, you know. But I feel like that kind of like is an idea here. I think I'm not expert on this like the history of India or whatever, but like kind of just like about like a nation kind of like come like basically like becoming more progressive in a way, at least accepting
No, I mean that's 100% what this movie is about. I think one word you could say is orthodoxy. I'm going to mention this quote in a second from Ray.
Yeah.
First, like, Ray has a really interesting background because like he grew up in a very liberal household. His family like he grew up in a family of writers and stuff. Like it's kind of like his family history is actually really interesting too. Like you get a whole series just on his like father and grandfather and like what they wrote and stuff.
Yeah.
so his background specifically, he was like kind of introduced to like Western, like this kind of Western progressivism you're talking about basically sooner than a lot of other Indians would have been, because he grew up in a more like I guess you could say wealthier class, educated class in Bengal. But he was and that's what this movie's about, is the kind of like basically this mix of values happening because of this. Like India is all of a sudden thrust into basically a modern economic environment, especially the city, which they're in now, the big city, literally. Basically, how do they deal with that? Like the grandpa versus the sister, I think is the younger sister. Is a good way to kind of tell like how she is viewing things versus how he's viewing things. Like
definitely,
because like basically the grandpa, like all the students he goes and talks to are all successful men, in these like new kind of roles that society's provided, but like well,
it's even more like the sister is being shown opportunities for her now, like this is also opening up her eyes to like she's not just going to be she's not locked into being just the housewife like her brother said that she was supposed to be at the very beginning of the movie.
He's kidding.
No, he is kidding, but
I think it's actually funny because is he kidding? Because the
like
way
that's
he
the whole
views
thing,
he's actually making like Ray's making a joke to the audience, that kind of thing. Like, basically, well, this movie's going to be about like is he actually kidding? But let me read this Ray quote, because he said this in the 1980s. He says, "Orthodoxy is something which dies hard, Of course we don't feel it because we don't mix with that crowd. That is not my milieu. But talking to people, some of whom which belong to Orthodox families, I hear things that suggest that such problems still exist." I mean, this movie is about like it's taking place in like I think it's contemporary times, like 60. I forgot what time period actually.
63.
That's when the movie.
That's when
came
the movie.
I forgot when like the time period of the movie is. I think it's probably 50s.
Do they say it?
I don't remember. There probably is. I'm just not remembering. But let's just say 50s, late 50s. And Ray saying this in the 80s. And this is still true today. There's Orthodox families like this, So, especially with the idea of, especially with her problem in the movie, which is like,
it's in the 1950s, according to Wikipedia.
Okay. But actually, so I've mentioned Devapriya Sanyal. She's the one that wrote those two books of Failed Masculinities and then Gendered Modernities, like both about Satyajit Ray. So let me read this quote about what she says about The Big City first. "The film is about clashing social values. Those of an older generation who would keep the married woman at home against those of a younger generation who see the necessity for change, but also need the money that a wife's employment might bring. Arati's problem is however a perennial one, whether she should take up a job or try to please her in-laws, husband and child by staying at home. But it's a problem that eases. As her husband tells her, affectionately but tinted by Ray's irony, a woman's place is in the home. It is part of the value system that was entrenched in certain Orthodox Bengali Indian households, but with the aspirations of the men rarely yielding success, Orthodoxy has no option to surrender to social ground." And I love that last line too, because it's like, I think that's what makes this movie kind of universal too, not just like, I mean, obviously this is a very specific movie to India and Bengal at the time, but this idea of, this is kind of why I like some, this is why I like some, like reading about Marx and stuff, because this idea of like how economics changes our values, like people don't want to admit. People usually go the other way, where it's like our values always are first, and that's how we do our economics. Yeah. But this is like the way she words is basically, and kind of what this movie's about too, in a way, is like, like when the husband is talking about the grandpa, is like, oh, as long as you buy him glasses, he'll change.
Yeah.
Basically, that idea of like why do women have to go work? Because like economics are basically forcing them. Like he loses, like it's kind of funny. Like it almost happens like too literally for my sense in this movie, where like he wants her to quit her job because he's like conservative, basically. He doesn't like how she's getting attention now and like basically becoming a modern woman. But then the second he loses his job, he basically has to call and be like, "No, you have to keep your job."
It's one of the funniest phone calls in himself.
Yeah, yeah, it is funny though. Yeah, because like, no, you have to keep your job now.
He's like, "Have you turned to the papers yet?"
But it's literally like this idea of like economics determining values, not the other way around. Yeah. And basically like especially in a country like India where it's so basically for good and bad, it has a very deep tradition. It has a very 2,000 of years tradition. Which is going to mean it's orthodoxy. How it deals with just like all of a sudden this like fast economic progress and like all of a sudden women are working and basically, and literally in this case like carrying the family. Yeah. Like how do the men deal with that? I think that's really interesting. And what I love about Ray too, he's not just like I said, he's not polemical. He's not there's not a villain in the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The villain is society,
I guess.
I'm joking.
I don't even think the society's a villain. I don't even think he's like saying this is necessarily a bad thing in this movie that women have to work.
No, I think.
Well, no, yeah, I know.
No, I definitely don't think.
I don't know if
No, I definitely don't think he's saying it's a bad thing because it's almost the opposite. Like she's actually able to find more of herself and working and stuff. But it's more about like how the men deal with it. And there are some good moments we'll talk about specifically, because she this is actually she's not talking about the big city specifically when she talks about this, but she talks about how let me read the quote. She says, Ray's portrayal of women is not identifiable as, quote, concern for gender issues, unquote, in today's parlance. If that makes sense. So, like, you wouldn't say, like, he's, like, specifically talking about women's issues. Like, you could say maybe a little bit, especially for, like, 1960s standards, maybe.
Yeah.
But even then, like, he's not, like, teaching you something about, like, women's... Like, you can draw that out of the movie if you want to, but it's not, like, very specific in the movie, Yeah. It's much more documentary in terms of how it's telling the story. But so let me read this where she keeps going. She says, quote, "The Bhadralok, which is in Bengali basically means the well-educated class, to which Ray belonged, was a Western-educated elite whose concerns were primarily democracy, nationalism, social equality, and the emancipation of women. But they were also brought up on world literature, which favored realism and mimesis over political rhetoric." And that last part, which basically favored realism and mimesis, or like representing real life in art, you can tell he's very committed to that idea of art, So even if he does agree, like you're saying, like you asked me, like what is politics? Like I think they're definitely there, but they're definitely under. Like basically, he's like, this is the story. Like I'm telling the story.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell from there, Even though the story itself doesn't tell you anything specifically, like here are my politics, or like here is like what I think about women or anything, Yeah. Even though this one's still like, especially with the ending. It feels like so sudden to me.
The ending's a bit. Yeah, I'm unsure about the ending. It's a bit like. I'm
curious what you guys think about it because of like.
Because I remember I didn't even really like it that much when I first watched it.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like I don't know.
So like even then like I think to me that's like it's like the most where it becomes a little more like I guess preachy I guess it's like it's like a bad way to say it but I can't think of a better way. Right
it's just very direct. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. It's not even the directness. I kind of like directness in a way. Like I think Brassan's a very direct director. I don't know.
Very direct in a narrative type of way, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, I guess direct is another thing.
Yeah.
Like would you call Sai a direct director?
Yeah, actually.
Because when you say direct, I was thinking of that Nick Pinkerton quote. I read it on the episode for what's Sai's first movie?
Rose.
Yes. About when it drains, all the water draining, and he talks about that quote at the end. He's like, it's like almost like a direct symbol, but it's like that's why it works,
Yeah.
That's why.
He definitely has. He definitely has direct symbols.
Huh?
He has direct symbols. Sai doesn't.
Actually,
when I think of directness, I don't even think of symbols though.
That's what I mean. Like you actually brought this like when you talked about symbolism versus indexical, like how film can be indexical.
Oh, on the Brassan?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's more like that, where it's like direct in that kind of sense.
Yeah.
Like the meaning is almost so direct, but I don't know, it still has multiple layers to it. Like the side example.
Yeah.
It's like so direct that you can miss it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Like a documentary or something.
Because I don't know if you guys remember that moment in Stray Dogs, but it's our still for Stray Dogs. It's that, or not. Yeah, it is Stray Dogs. I'm pretty sure it's just him walking the infinity loop. Basically, like that's just like the entire movie in a nutshell. But
walking the infinity.
Yeah, he's just like walking just in the infant. It's just like this little like track that just makes the infant.
That wide shot.
Yeah, the wide
I love
shot.
that wide shot, dude. Oh my god, I love that wide
It's
shot.
one
I
of
was
my
literally thinking about the
favorite
other
shots in the
day.
movie.
Damn.
I was literally thinking about that shot the other day because it's like one of my
It's so
favorite
good.
wide shots.
You don't even like Stray Dogs that much, do you?
Was that Stray Dogs? I was actually thinking it was a different movie too.
I think that was Stray
I just remember that
Dogs.
shot.
It
but,
was one of his digital ones. It wasn't Days. I think it was Stray Dogs.
It might be.
He's I don't even remember this. Luke.
It's definitely Stray Dogs.
No, I'll have to look that up later. But anyway, I think we can go ahead and get started onto like the big city.
Yeah, only 4 stars.
Okay, yeah.
Hates it.
So 4 stars is hating. I'll remember that.
For you, yeah.
Okay. But do we remember the first shot of this movie?
It's just the tram, right?
Yeah, the close-up of the tram railway.
Because I watched Charulata before this movie, and I was wondering if there was anything going on with the way he was like opening with the hands in Charulata and the tram in this one. Even though I didn't realize that the big city came up before, obviously Charulata, but because I don't know, it's a difference in it's definitely a difference in the times as well. Because like I don't know, the trams are getting them around everywhere compared to like just this lady working with like just embroidering.
No, I think that's a really like she's gonna be taking this basically.
Yeah,
you know, versus like in Charlotte, she's gonna be stuck in this home kind of thing.
Exactly.
And I think the time periods are very, very important to that. That's why it's kind of confusing. We're doing the big city first, which is the later one. But I'm kind of glad. But Blake is showing us the shot.
Yeah, the shot.
Okay, now I remember this.
Yeah. The side shot. Sorry.
Wait, why were you thinking about it though?
Actually, that is a great shot. I don't know. There's certain side wide shots I think about.
I get it.
There's another one that. What is the one in the park?
That's
with both of them.
That's what time is it there? Wait, no, that's Wayward Cloud.
In the park.
In the park?
Yeah, yes sir.
No, it's like both of them in the park. It's one of the later ones.
Viva
for
La
sure.
More?
Are they laying down?
No.
Is one of them laying down? The other one on a swing set?
Oh, that is Wayward Cloud. Yeah.
No, it's not that one. There's no.
They're in
one.
a park. That's
I mean,
a very
even
it's
the
very
greats
generic.
have the misses.
That's a very generic.
Even the greats have their business.
Even the greats have their wizard gear.
Wait, what? That's a very generic. They're in a park. That's just
because that
that's
could
just-
be what
I have to
that
go
could be
look
what
it up.
time is it there too.
Yeah,
It's like so generic. I don't even know.
okay. Let's get back to the movie.
Let's get back to it.
So anyway, I mean, because we also talked about the Zelda trilogy, like this. He basically likes these, basically, objects of modernism, basically. So like the tramways, the kind of close up we get first. Then we see the husband get home. We should talk about the husband too, because like, it's just so clear. Like he's not so much a Chatterjee.
Oh yes, definitely.
Like he's like
he's the opposite.
He's kind of just like it's like a classic. You see this in a lot of like Hollywood movies too, where I think actually there are some moments in this where Ray's trying to be Hollywoodish in a way, like especially with the ending. Like he's trying to make her like the kind of classic heroine, like the kind of reuniting, like the way it's even shot and stuff. It's like maybe like an ending of a Hollywood movie almost, but it's like kind of ironic. He's trying to be. I don't know. It's like it's a weird ending to me, but But anyway, like it's a classic case of where the actress is like really outshining the male lead.
100%. 100%.
Because he's kind of forgettable in this one, honestly. I'm not hating. He's just like he's kind of.
Is that kind of his role though in this?
It is, but he also gets too much. It's like one of the weaknesses of the movie to me. It's like kind of the other characters get too much screen time for me. I still like it, but like the grandpa too, and basically my favorite stuff is like what's her in the office.
I like the grandpa just because this guy is like such a hypocrite. Well, he's basically just like begging essentially for free shit from his students.
And the way he does it is just like so like.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah, like the way he shoot like where he's like begging and like the wife is like in the rush for they're like some play or something. They have
yes.
To do. But anyway, so yeah, basically he's doing a good job of basically introducing us to their environment of the home where he's getting back to, where like you can tell they're kind of like in tight spaces. The grandparents also live with them. And like this is where like we mentioned earlier where this is actually, it's funny how she's introduced in the movie Mukherjee. She's introduced as basically a housewife where we see the younger sister first, and she's like she's talking about not wanting to be. I don't know. I forgot what exactly makes him bring up this domestic science thing.
Yeah. Well, she wants to go to school. Yeah. Well, no, she wants to go to school, or she wants to keep going to school, but they said that she might need to stop or something
Or she says something about stopping because
she says something about stopping later.
Okay.
I know
Either
that
way,
she does that later.
They're like the husband's like, you don't want to stop or you'll end up with kitchen duty like Arati. And that's when she comes in, which is it's kind of like he's like almost making a joke too, where like he's saying this about her and like basically wait till the movie and like she's gonna be providing for you. Like there's some funny scenes later that they're kind of subtle, but like I noticed this time they're like really funny if you think about them. Like,
they're really funny just in the way the guy reacts too. Honestly,
yes, like once she starts bringing in money, basically, it's great. But then like he honestly in hindsight he probably realizes he shouldn't have said this, but he like offhandedly mentions like. Because she asked, "Can we borrow money from a friend?" And he's like, "No." And they're actually struggling too. They're struggling so much that she started working. And like, if you notice, it's like the first moment where she has this kind of moment of realization, this thinking moment where she's like, "Wait a second, like why is she working and not me?"
Yeah.
And this is also subtle too, where it's not mentioned, but if you kind of like think about it, it makes sense. And I was reading about Devapriya Sanyal mentioned this, how basically the only roles that women were allowed to go out in society like before modern times really were like teaching roles, basically as teachers. So it's kind of it's kind of funny where she says like she went out to be a teacher and she says, "Oh, I can't be a teacher though."
Yeah.
And like this is where the modern world comes in. It's like she has other options. That's basically the modern world now. It's like in the past she wouldn't have any other options basically, or very few options outside of being a teacher. You know what I'm saying? In the modern world now she has more options. Like she says she has 1 year of college.
Yeah.
So she's like now she can be like a clerk or something like that, or a saleswoman as she becomes. Which is it's like all in the background, but I like that too. But it's kind of cross cut. Like we're getting along. This is like long scene. It's cross cut with the. It's kind of annoying too. This grandpa, he gives like multiple speeches too. That kind of annoy me. But I think that's part of the movie too, where he's supposed to be annoying. It's kind of like I feel like all older generations are like this. But
yes, definitely.
Like especially our older generation now that won't take any blame for like fucking housing prices and like
the lead generation.
Yes, exactly. But
that's gonna be you though.
You're in my generation. We're basically
you're millennial.
Young millennial.
Oh,
we are.
You're still a millennial. You're still a millennial.
Don't say it like that. Don't say it like a slur.
Millennial's definitely an insult though. That's
okay. No, it actually is in a certain context.
Like it's definitely a bad thing.
But you're proud to be the TikTok generation though.
Well, it's not the TikTok.
Your generation's
talking about attention span.
It's already gone.
If there's not a cut every 5 milliseconds, it's not fast enough.
I don't use TikTok, so
Gen Z.
I mean, you're at least not like an older millennial, I guess. Yeah, that's like, those are like the worst ones. I sorry to all the older millennials I just said that.
They're probably the only ones that listen to this podcast.
Wait, yeah. Oh shit.
Like we're like our generation.
Yeah, but I just definitely like insulted like so many people saying that.
No one's listening to this shit.
That's true. And if they were, they're not anymore.
Okay, let's get back to the episode. But basically, and then she like later on he literally tells her too, like at one point where he's like, if you were less attractive, I'd want you to get a job.
Exactly.
But like he's showing his insecurities.
Yes,
you know?
that's the main crux of the reason why women were allowed out of the house.
Yeah, so this is a very insecure thing for men, you know.
Which I mean, fuck. If I had a wife like that.
Wow. I mean,
I'd be terrified that I'd lose her too. Are you kidding me?
This idea of like, he knows that she's going to get attention from men.
100%.
But yeah, like that's just something men have to deal with.
It's
our huge burden we bear.
Let's stop.
There's literally no women. I'm sorry, women.
I'm sorry. You do the Rogic thing? I'm sorry, women. That's so. I think about that. I actually think about that like once a month.
Wait, Roderick?
Like the Roderick saying "I'm sorry, woman."
I'm sorry.
When his mom makes him. Did you never read Diary of a Wimpy Kid?
I did. Oh, I love Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You have to show me the image.
No, like when he like did something, like he like got in trouble with something about like objectifying women, and then like his mom made him like apologize, want him to apologize to like woman or whatever. He's like, I'm sorry, woman.
I mean, he's kind of spitting. I mean.
No, I mean, like, I really felt that.
It sounds like a really ally thing to do.
A really what?
Ally thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I said that right, but... but either way, and I think this is also kind of interesting, too, when he tells her... when he uses the quote, "a woman's place in the home," because he uses it in English. Because earlier, when he talks about, like, the woman getting a job, he says, quote, "husband and wife." He also says it in English. So he says like the kind of like progressive thing where like he's like, yeah, both husband and wife are working. He says it in English, and then he says like a really conservative statement of like a woman's place is in the home, also in English, kind of showing like basically they kind of make a joke like using both sides. They just use in English.
Wait, so do people like in India like do they like actually use English like that though?
Yeah, no, a lot of people.
Do they just like randomly start like? Is there like a?
Yes. Well, people will mix it. Yeah, for sure.
Like, is there like a like why?
Because most people learn English too. In India.
So like, what's the purpose of like mixing it? Do you think?
I mean, sometimes English can have better ways to say stuff.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I don't know. Also, like, now that we live in such a global culture too.
Yeah.
Like people just learn stuff in English.
Interesting.
Like people have TikTok everywhere. You know,
this happens with a lot of people at my work.
Not just you.
Whoa.
This happens with a lot of the Spanish speakers in my work too. Like they're just speaking in Spanish and they'll say some phrase in English and it's just like probably just because it's easier to say in English than it is in Spanish. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, that is an interesting thing too. But anyway, this is also probably one of my favorite shots where we like get it's probably the night shot where she's like thinking in bed about if she's gonna get a job and like
and trying to talk to him.
This is like another kind of upward trilogy thing where a woman's trying to say something to a guy who's like falling asleep while she likes making her like big. This is actually
having her big realization basically, and
it's kind of a similar thing to what you were saying about where like she was talking to the husband in the upward trilogy and he's falling asleep, but this is like kind of a I guess a better version where she's actually going to be able to do something at least. And then she's like things can't go on like this. I'll get a job. And that's what I was saying. He's trying to make it a little heroine-ish, like a kind of like a hero or something like a Hollywood movie where, you know, things can't go on like this. I have to get a job. Where like the job is kind of like a heroic act. And then the next scene is like
paper.
Wait, which one?
They're going through the ads, right?
Yeah, they go through the ads. Like the
girl, the sister says that she should be an actress.
Yeah. That's where like they're trying to keep quiet so the grandparents don't hear about her getting a job. And then when she hears her eyes when she hears 100 rupees per month, her like eyes like light up. And then like they send in an application. And to me, I'd already just like skipped over this scene like where she kind of like where the husband is like, you should sign this. You have to sign your own name. And she's like, why should I sign? It's like, it's your thing. And I always like never thought it was a big deal. But it's like, it kind of makes sense where... Basically, let me read the quote from Devapriya Sanyal. She says, quote, as Arati bends over to sign her name, Subrata looms over her through a protective gesture at which she shows signs of discomfort. It is significant in that it is the... sign of Arati's growing sense of independence and self-realization. It is the first sign of Arati's growth of sense of independence and self-reliance. Ray is extremely attentive to the actual process involved in becoming independent. A woman simply does not break loose. The process starts as it should through paperwork. And I like that. Just like, this is like a small example of like, basically this idea of like a woman that's been at home her whole life, like now having to do like public things, you know, even like simple signing her name for the first time. And having to think about that, stuff like that.
Well, and it's also like interesting for the husband too, because the husband multiple times is like accused of like forcing his wife to work. Mm-hmm. So this is like basically proving like no, she literally did it of her own free will. Like,
yeah, I think the most forcing did is bringing up the idea in the first place.
Yeah,
which is
by accident, basically.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's funny. He's always accused of that. But that's the kind of social pressures he's living in, right? Yeah. Like he knows that too. What people are going to think.
And she knows that too.
Yeah,
because she even has multiple.
No, and she's that's actually another thing where like that's where I was saying the difference between showing like reality as a more documentary observational filmmaker versus like being polemical is another example we'll talk about a little later is her interactions with the Anglo-Indian, as the boss calls her, you know. Because, like, basically she knows how other people are going to view her interactions with her. How a lot of Indians might view, like, basically have the same views as the boss does.
Yeah.
But she basically, without ever saying, like, we see what she thinks. You know, like, she's more kind of, like, progressive in, like, how she views it. She's allowed to have her own thoughts about it, you know. Yeah, there's also, like, we learned that the grandpa's, like, addicted to doing crosswords. Which is
so
kind of funny.
This is basically just a gambling addiction at the end of the day.
Exactly. It's like where he's, like, basically asking the grandma for money to
buy crosswords. Yeah. It's like, what, 7,000 or something? You can win 7,000 rupees or something?
Yeah. And it's kind of sad, like, how, like, basically, like, gloomy he is of, like, oh, I just, the older generation's forgotten about me, and, like, why he's, like, addicted to crosswords and stuff. It's kind of funny. But then, like, it kind of cuts to basically she's already gotten the job. Which, to me, the only thing I have in my notes there is, like, it kind of skips over the interview and stuff. But we're going to get in a couple weeks, like, one of my favorite race scenes of the interview. And, like, he, like I said, because he only started making movies, like, when he was 38 or 39. So he basically worked in this kind of business world for a while. And he has his thoughts, like, we'll basically he'll talk more about the interview process, too, and the middleman and the adversary, especially. Basically how stupid it is. Like,
the adversary, you're just watching this and you're like, how did they make people do this? Like, what are they doing to people?
But yeah. Yeah, basically, like, it's funny because, like, she gets a job. There's multiple times where, like, we're not supposed to, like, because of the different family relations of how they're going to react, we don't know if something's good news or bad news. Or, like, it depends on who you ask, you know? So, like, oh, she's gotten the job. It's at first good news, but then it becomes, like, really bad news because now they have to go tell the grandparents.
It's, like, basically only good news to the sister.
Basically, exactly.
Even the brother, even, like, the little brother is, like, not happy about it. Or their son, I think, right?
And, like, I have my notes, like, it's literally shot like a melodrama where they're, like, telling the grandpa for the first time. And it's like a really darkly lit scene, and, like, the music is, like, getting dramatic. As, like, he's, like, finding out.
It goes on for a while. Like,
yes. Yeah. And he's like, I'm glad it's making you happy, but it's not going to make me happy. He's like, basic guilt.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing to say.
Manipulator, motherfucker.
Like, damn, bro.
And then,
bro just wants to, like, bro's like, he's, like, doing crosswords and shit. And he's like, but think about me.
I do like some of these shots, too, like, with there's, like, a good shot where the grandpa's, like, his head is, like, in his hands, and, like,
that's the shot.
The son is looking away, and the grandma's in the background.
Yeah, that, okay, yeah.
Yeah. That was, like, the lights in the foreground. And then that's when the husband just comes and tells her the Cold War has begun, which I think is kind of, like, funny, too.
Yeah.
But I love how the husband is, I will give him this, like, this is more about the writing, too, like, Ray's writing. It's just, like, he does have a lot of, like, funny, like, you can tell he uses humor to kind of, like, say, like,
diffuse
more serious.
Yes,
diffuse to say more serious things, basically. Yeah.
Like, soften the blow.
Yes, even for himself, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, because there's a good moment where he asks her, like, that night, like, what else she needs to look good to go to office. So, like I said with Ray, he doesn't have, like, villains. Like, even his husbands in both these movies, like, they're not just villains. Like, they still, like, you can understand why they're having these insecurities, too. Like, even if you don't agree with, like, how they deal with them, you know. Because, like, he's asking her, like, what stuff she needs to basically look good for the office, not expecting... Obviously, he's not expecting the reactions he's going to have later, but yeah, like, then we get, like, the nice scene of them eating together, and, like, the sisters, like, it's like a wedding day of eating at the same time, which is kind of funny. And, also, this is another thing I liked about the scene where, like, this is where the husband is like, oh, once you get him the glasses, he'll be fine. And then, the little kid is like, she's like, because, like, it's like kind of dramatic where the kid is, like, crying about her leave and stuff. And then when she finally leaves, he's like, oh, like, what toy are you going to buy me? And I think it's kind of funny where, like, basically you have to buy objects for the grandpa and little kid.
Yeah.
To kind of keep
them.
Basically to get them to not whine.
To accept you.
Yeah, exactly. To not whine about her leaving. But then, there's a good shot of her on the tram now for the first time, going to work and stuff. And then I don't know if you guys realize the shot of like when they're actually walking inside the building. There's like a quick handheld shot, but the camera's like kind of shaky as they walk. I was like, I wonder why I did that. But then he like mirrors the shot at the end of the movie where she's leaving after quitting, and he uses like it's like the only time we get handheld, the same kind of shot where she's leaving, and it's like handheld, like this kind of unsteadiness. I was like, damn, that's kind of weird. But yeah, that's like when she gets in the office, she meets Edith for the first time. We kind of get some scenes of the husband working at the bank.
Is this the scene where one of the customers comes in and like says like, "Is it safe to open an account here?"
Yes. Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Setting up like what's gonna happen. Like, don't open it. But yeah, we meet the boss too, where like he's like explaining the jobs and stuff. We also get this is the first time the grandpa uses his students, where he goes and gets glasses from his old student. Basically guilt trips.
Bro, this dude, the crying. He's literally crying.
Yeah.
I don't know if these ones are crocodile tears, but they might be.
But he actually gets the reaction from this guy. He's like, "Oh, after all, you have a claim on it." Because he says this earlier. It's like, "Don't I have a claim on my son?" And later on, this like glasses doctor, this optometrist is like, "After all, you have a claim on us. You taught us first, didn't you?" And he's like, "Oh, damn, that's like what I wanted to hear." You know, he's like, at least some younger generation still has respect. We get like some of my favorite shots of basically all the women working for the first time, where he's like cutting across each one of them like as they're walking. And it's like
no, this is a great shot. Yeah,
I think they're all wearing sunglasses too.
They are. They're scoping out their area, you know.
Yeah, their zones or whatever.
These would be like terrible jobs, though. Honestly, like I'm sure sales girls had good jobs. Like, I mean, obviously there were some that probably liked it, but me, the introvert I am, going door to door sales, no, fuck no. Hell no.
We even see you couldn't be Mormon?
No.
Or wait, is it that the one where they go door to door?
No, that's Jehovah's Witness.
Mormons don't go door to door?
I don't know if Mormons do. Jehovah's Witness definitely does. That's always who knocks on our doors.
Mormons do too, don't they?
I thought they did.
I think so.
Maybe I'm confusing the two.
Maybe not.
You just say
I guess they're both kind of cool too.
You just say you've been exiled from Jehovah's Witness, and they'll run the other way.
Wait, why?
I don't know. I guess there's some like rule in their church that if you've been exiled from the church or whatever, you're not allowed to come back.
Okay, I don't
know.
But anyway, so yeah, we get a scene of her like kind of. Actually, first of all, she sees this like old white guy and she like gets scared and like runs off.
Yeah,
it's funny.
yeah, that's funny. But then we see her scene with another, basically scene of her selling this equipment with this like basically how rich women might act. Like, I think there's like a funny moment too where like there's like a child sick in the other room and she like offers like, "Oh, have you tried homeopathy?" And like the lady just completely ignores her, which is like so funny.
What's that?
Basically like home remedies, I guess. Like
like the natural oils.
Yeah, natural ways to deal with it. But then we get a scene of like basically the boss is upset because like Edith has gone in the room to get them a raise or to get them commissions basically, and she comes out because like expect getting them the commission, she thinks. Then the boss calls Arati in and he's like, "Why do you let her be the leader when it should be one of you Bengali women?" Like, it makes no sense. Like what do you see what qualities do you see in her that you guys don't have? And then, like, it's funny because like the whole time he's speaking, like we see her face, but she never says anything to him, like that she agrees with him or anything like that. She just like basically is like, "All right," and then like leaves.
Well, because the boss was basically just making it sound like he was going to give them this commission anyway in a couple months. It wasn't anything to do with her.
Yeah, he's like, no, yeah, and he's like, "I would have given it to you. You're like, you're more polite anyway." But basically, like, kind of showing his like how his worldview towards the Edith too, exactly. But then there's there's this great scene of her getting paid for the first time with the money, pulling out the money in the bathroom, with the mirror too. When then Edith like gives her the lipstick to use.
Is this also kind of like more of their like racist shit to Edith, I guess? Because like Mukherjee, she has all the like clean bills, and then she has all the dirty bills.
That's 100% like what. Yeah, she's like, yeah. I think this boss is trying to make it obvious that he doesn't like her. But yeah, I love how Edith gives her this lipstick to basically like kind of basically they know that enhancing their looks is gonna.
Well, I love
help
how
them sell more
I love how she brings in ancient Indian traditions of just like
Yes,
how the women used to paint their
like,
lips, their face, their nails, and everything. And she's like, why shouldn't we do it now?
I love that quote. Yeah, because that's something. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but like a lot of Indian conservatives will kind of like hide a lot of India's like cultural past because of like how erotic it can be at times and stuff.
Yeah.
Like especially in the temples and stuff.
What do you mean?
The Kama Sutra?
The Kama Sutra. Just like a lot of the temples will have like very sexual imagery on it. And a lot of the like the
I think there's actually a joke about the Kama Sutra in this movie. Because I think Edith says something about it.
No, that's what this joke is. Just like there's an Indian book on sex. Just recommend that book. But it's really not about sex, it's about love too. Yeah. But
I got Sean that book for his wedding present.
Oh damn.
It's crazy.
Well, I've actually read it, so
why?
It's not a book. It's a philosophy. It's
like literally more of like a text, like a manual or something.
It's a spiritual text.
But it was meant for like.
It actually is though. Like I'm not saying that as a joke. It actually is like a spiritual text. Like,
but sex can be spiritual.
I mean, in all the senses.
From what I hear.
What? What?
Is that movie? No, that movie.
Well, Prince like sex is like a kind of like realm. Or like, and it kind of, and like a. I mean that like a as opposition to like society, or it's like as opposition to society, or just like nationalism, or.
I mean,
sex is rebellion. It's kind of like it kind of is like a spiritual experience. The movie kind of paints it as that. It's like another realm. It's like
I need to watch that again from how people talk about it, but like. I remember like the cover is so good. Like I bought it, the Criterion just.
Oh, the cover is amazing, and
but then watching the movie,
the movie's amazing too.
I was like hoping for like more stars or whatever.
More what?
What's on the cover? It's like these floating things.
It's her breath. It's like
the
dust from her breath.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like the little. Like,
it's like the dust from her breath, basically. Like the light hitting the dust or whatever. It's really.
I mean, the movie has a lot of beautiful
one of the better Criterion covers. Honestly.
It is.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's like I don't even know.
I don't know why I said stars. It just the thing.
It kind of looks like
stars. It's just cool. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. It's also the guy, not the girl, on the cover. Actually, maybe it is the girl. I can't tell. I
thought it was the girl,
but then she comes home for the first time with her salary and commission
and presents, and the husband's just like, "Did you spend all your salary?"
No, she makes bank now.
She does.
There's a good quote where she's like, "I'm just tired of thinking," which kind of goes with this whole theme I'm talking about, like her like basically her responsibilities during this movie. There's also the like when her and her husband are talking tonight, and he's like, she says that you wouldn't recognize me on the job, and he's like, would I even recognize you at home now? Like basically showing how much she's changed ever since, like kind of showing this new side of her and stuff. But then. That's like it's funny because like this is where I'm saying I mentioned this last week where we get these direct contrasts, but like this is where all great filmmakers are. Where without saying anything directly, like so this previous scene, the husband's like seeing like how much his wife has changed, and you can tell like he's getting insecure about it. And so the next morning, like he cuts to the next scene is the husband calling his friend about getting another job so that his wife can quit her job. Basically, I want to go back the old ways. Like it's literally the next scene. And like before he even gets the job, the friend is like, "Oh, come talk to me in person." Something I think he's like, I can probably find you something. He already tells his wife, he's like, "Oh, I got another job. Like you can quit."
Like, guys living the dream. Wife's the breadwinner.
I know. I mean, yeah,
bro. He's not.
It's a dream until like okay. What if this happened to you? The scene that happens to him later on. In the cafe where he's just like chilling, you know, and then he looks and like, because this is another thing where the contrasts are really significant. Where like, it's we can just talk about it now, but it's like the lipstick scene where he finds the lipstick in her purse, and then she like throws it out, and he thinks, oh, okay, thank God, you know, like at least she's not doing that anymore. And like the next scene he sees her, she has like these sunglasses on, like that Edith's giving her, and he's like, what the fuck, like, and then like she's like with this guy, and she's like acting totally different, like trying to sell this product. And that's when he starts following her. You know?
Me, I'm just different, bro.
I mean, if you're fine with it, like if you trust her, like her point is like you should trust her.
No,
right?
Trust.
You should trust your. You should trust your spouse. But like that's what he's dealing with, especially in this new world.
Yeah.
But. Yeah. Damn, where was I? Because I do like that scene. That's
he's like getting another
that's
job,
actually basically
like,
he's like told her he's already found a part-time job. We had an agreement that you would quit, and it like peace is more family. He's like taking his grandpa's side. He's like, peace is more family in the home. Peace is more important in the family.
Home,
you know,
it's more important than the money.
Yeah. But this is like a great quote because it's like initially she got the job just to support her family.
Yeah.
But now you can tell like she actually likes it. Like she's getting her own value out of it. It's not just for her family at this point, which makes it you could say a feminist reading if you want to, right? Because it's like it's about her now. It's not just about providing for other people.
Yeah.
And because she says like I'm doing such good work, is that bothering you? Like literally, like is that why you make me do this? You know, not necessarily because like you care about the job, the other people in the family. And then this is where like we mentioned earlier, she like it's basically the husband's getting what he wants still. You know, it's not that modern because like the next morning she's still resigning the. Earlier he makes her like at the beginning we see her sign the application. Now she's signing a resignation letter.
Yeah.
But then like we get the shot where she's going to the office. She almost puts a lipstick on and realizes she doesn't need it because like she's quitting. And this is like where we talked about earlier, the dramatic kind of intercutting of the husband finding out that his bank has been run. So now like basically they need her to work because like they're fucked if she's not working. So of course she gets the call at the last second right before she hands in the letter. I also like that she keeps this letter because it's like I like this letter that comes back too. There are always these little moments in Ray movies that you don't think are going to come back, or like you never know what's going to come back. Like I mentioned, just even the signing the letter twice that comes back.
It's just crazy. This dude had no idea his bank was this bad. Like I know someone specifically says that. I think her dad says that later. Like, how'd you not know? Like it's not good to have your eyes. It's not good to have your eyes stuck in your papers or whatever. But.
He's like, aren't you one of the people that should know this?
Yeah. He was like, the managers are the ones that were telling us it was okay. And I was like, man, dude, you gotta know something. Oh my god.
I mean, at a certain point, it's like.
Yeah, know your company's not doing that good. Like,
well, then you want to work there. Or I mean, I guess it's like one of those things. Like I'm saying, you have to do. You're gonna have to trust them.
Funny ass call though, like we already said.
Yeah, that is. Anyway, she keeps the job now,
and she gets a raise and 50 rupees because she basically gets.
That's the thing. She shows like
which because the boss kind of likes how impulsive she is because she definitely is impulsive. That's another part about her character in this movie.
Actually, I think that's what relates both characters too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
But no, I'm glad you pointed that out too because that's true for this one too. But yeah, like you said, the boss likes that. But I love because the husband comes home after losing and like gets yelled at by the wife's Arati's father now about. Because like he opened a bank account there too, of course.
It's like I lost 2,000.
He's like I don't need the money, but it's about the principle or something. The principle. I forget what he says exactly.
It is. That's exactly what he says. It's like about the principle that matter. It's like how can we trust you?
Yeah. And then he's like, "I'm sorry, I made you marry this man," or whatever, something like that. I don't think he says that.
That's basically what he says though. He's like, I didn't think life would be this hard for you. Well, I think that's literally what he says.
But then she actually says like something you could say is probably like a Ray theme of all of his movies where she says this isn't anyone's fault.
Yeah,
that's like a hard thing for a lot of people to accept when they're watching like a movie where they want like a kind of good and evil thing, but like that's where he's present. He's like more presenting like that where it's like not anyone's specific fault. It's just like
just life, man.
Yeah, it's just life in a way. And then she also tells her dad, "No one made me go out and work. It was my own decision. And I enjoy it very much." So like kind of going on saying her like this is her own thing. But then we get some shots of basically like she lets the sister cook for the first time.
Gets a passing grade.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, honestly, where she's eating and I think the guy's mom is just sitting there and she's needing some money to pay the maid. And then she just like offhandedly says to her husband, she's like, "You're not doing anything. Why don't you get the money?" Or is that the scene? Because this is the scene that he finds the lipstick too.
No, that's the next scene. That's one of my favorite scenes. That's coming out in a little bit.
Because the look on his face whenever he says that is so funny, man. It's just like.
There's a scene first where like we get these little moments of like him realizing kind of like at least he's having a self-worth problem now.
Yes, he definitely is.
In this kind of modern world of like the wife being the provider.
It's the contrast in the movie of the wife literally getting the raise and everything's looking hunky-dory for her, and then the husband's over here like all depressed. Like
this is actually one of my favorite shots in the movie of this like night scene of like they're like both talking in bed and they're like split by the door frame. Here, I'll show you right now. But like she's like brightly lit, like there's a backlit, she's backlit, but his face is still in darkness. But like this is where he's like, wife's a hero, husband's a zero. When she's like telling him about the good news of a raise, because like basically he's basically just lost his job and stuff. So like all this bad news, and she's like, but I do have some good news.
What does it look like?
Oh, here, let me show you. Yeah, this one.
Oh yeah.
And you can kind of like even like there's darkness behind him, and like she's brightly like the way even she even brings it up too is like, is it good news for him? You know, like the way he's experienced all these things, he's like, and I have good news. I just got a raise, which should be good news. You know, it's more money for the household. But like he's like, oh, man, now she's making even more money. Like, well, it's like I'm making nothing. But like, yeah, there's a quick scene of where the grandpa goes to the other student, where we see like,
which I do love this. This
is where he's like basically begging for money.
I like this. I like this guy's face because Ray uses this guy in Charulata also as the brother that steals everything, basically.
Yes,
because
actually both of them, the couple.
Yeah, the couple. The couple comes back because I love this guy because this is the other side of the this is the side of the youth that doesn't respect, you could say, the older generations. Exactly.
Also, there's like I don't know too much about I don't even know where he's supposed to be from, because he said something like the Bengali community is just like that, like after they give him the money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know exactly what he's like. Like that's definitely something outside of our realm, you know. It's
definitely.
A joke specific to them, but anyway, this is the scene you were talking about. Where I even love the way it's shot, where she's the one eating, like she's the breadwinner in the foreground. And then, like, someone
the mom's literally fanning her.
Yes.
Like, it's so good.
Yes, yeah. And then someone asks, like, oh, the maid needs to be paid. And she's like, oh, hey, can you grab the money for me from my purse?
She literally says, you're not doing anything. Can you get the money? Yeah. Like, and his face is so good. He's like...
Yeah. Well, the way he's sitting, dude, he just, like, his hair's, like, disheveled, like, the newspaper. Like, obviously he's not doing shit. Like, on the bed, too. Like, he's eating or something, which is great. But he's like, can you get the money so we can pay the maid? And it kind of, this is like another quote where she's talking about the big city in general, but I think to me it reminded me of the scene specifically of just like, let me read the quote first, where she says, quote, "This sense of the woman gaining authority because she is working is not usually handled in art cinema, where power relationships within normal families are not stressed except in a Manichaean way and involve issues like dowry oppression." Especially that first part where she's like, what about the power relationships? Yeah. This is like a very subtle example of that.
Is.
You know, it's not major or anything. It's not like they're going to get divorced or like, you know, there's like someone's going to kill someone because of this. But it's like just a very simple way of like showing this.
That's why I love the husband's face, because it's more so one of shock. Like his wife just asked him to do that, basically.
It's like, I can't believe this is happening. Right
yeah,
now.
like,
and then he's like, all right, I got to do it. And he's like,
where is it?
To me, this is a dream life. But
no, I'd be like, anything for you, my queen.
I would have been watching
anything for you. I would
have been watching a movie. Exactly. I guess I can pause it.
Oh my god.
But no.
Yeah.
Anything for you.
Can't relate at all.
This is where he's like the moment where he finds a lipstick and stuff, and she's like, she can tell at least like he's feeling very like who is this woman? You know, is she being a totally different person outside of this place?
Am I losing her?
Yeah. And so she throws it out, obviously to make him. She says like, please don't misunderstand me. But this is like where I said like I love where like, is she like kind of giving in, or you know, like is the husband getting in his way? And then so the next scene is literally the opposite, where like Edith gives her these sunglasses after like she goes to visit her, and then she's like, we get to see her basically in action from the husband's perspective for this like great scene of like where he's like following her. She's like, it's like she's like rubbing in the wound, but she doesn't even know it, because like she's describing this husband. He's like, oh, what's your husband like? He's like, oh, you know, he's self-employed. He does everything himself. Yeah. He works 12 hours a day. Basically, like the opposite of what her actual husband is, you know? And so it makes it funny, like, he has to listen to all this. There's also this great shot where Ray also, like, he's doing this in all his movies where, like, we mentioned that Rivette quote about Renoir ending on a painting.
Yeah.
There's, like, a shot of this movie where, like...
the reflection?
Yeah, where he ends on the reflection
It's like a
shot.
split diopter, but, like...
But it's all, like...
But it's all in, like,
in the
actual
shot.
shots, yeah.
Well, it's actually both the reflections, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't even know how he's actually doing. Like,
well, it's like
it's
type
first
of...
on the left is her back. Her back. It's in a reflection though. I think. Like her back.
But it's over her shoulder.
Over her shoulder. Yeah.
You're seeing the guy she's talking to.
In the middle is the reflection of his face. Right.
I'm pretty sure it's just his face.
It is the reflection.
It's like part. And then there's a third part at the end.
No, this shit's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It has to be some type of weird like pillar, I guess.
It's a pillar with two kind of reflections.
So I guess it's like the weird kind of reflection.
Yeah.
It's like making it. It's like a prism.
But it's just a great way to. It's just so natural too. You know. Like,
yeah.
It's like not even a split diopter because you have to add that to the camera.
No, it's like it's like a naturalized split.
But like kind of like it works like the same thing what I was talking about where the door frame splits both of them, but she's brightly lit and he's darkly lit, but it's like all natural within the shot.
Yeah.
You know? It's like the reflection one is probably one of the. I might have to use that for the podcast picture, but then there's like the grandpa falls on the stairs. This is where I think
there's like a POV shot.
It takes it's kind of funny, but it kind of drags on a little too long. But the main reason I think he shows these is like.
Do you think this was a Hitchcock homage to Psycho? Because even I feel like the fall is kind of similar. Like we don't see him fall, but we see like the cane fall down and everything. I don't know.
It is kind of similar to that scene in Psycho.
It is.
Maybe. I don't even know what scene you're talking about. So.
When he's like walking up the stairs.
I barely remember something.
Before he died, before they kill him. Yeah, it's like DC in the movie basically, but
does that shot go into POV though?
Yeah. No, your shot from I think it's whenever he's walking up, and then he also goes this way, so that you can see what he's looking.
But it's also top down too. And then when he's falling, it has like the close up of him.
Whenever it's falling, it has the close up. Yeah.
But it kind of drags. But I think the reason why he's showing these is like basically to show the two cars that are going to arrive at the same time. First is the grandpa being like carried in after like passing out, and then second the cars arrive as Arati being dropped off by her husband, and basically like having to
by her boss.
By her boss. Yeah, exactly. And basically watching this husband like. He can't deal with any of this, you know. He's just a watcher like the rest of us, you know. Because like even the doctor comes and tells him basically like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, basically, what are you doing? Like, your dad should not be doing this, you know."
Yeah.
It's like he's like rubbing it like this is a clear sign that you're not doing enough or something.
It's like a grown son like you should be able to look after his father.
Yeah. He's like, I feel like you're neglecting him. He shouldn't be searching for a doctor himself. And then immediately after this happens to him, he has to watch his boss like in a car, which is like in the 60s or 50s. You know, not everyone had cars. There's obviously a sign of status to be driving a car. And, like, this boss comes and drops off his wife at night, you know, after, like, everyone's been saying, oh, his wife, she's never here this late, you know, like, where is she? Like, where is she? And he's just, like, watching them, like, from the window, too, like, can't even say anything.
Yeah.
It's, like, it's so funny. But Luke said he would love it.
But see,
Luke said he would love it. He would love this.
If the dude's dropping her off right at your doorstep, there's probably nothing going on.
No, there's not.
But, no, I know, but I'm just saying, like, from the man's point of view, like, I feel like you should not read into this. Like, I think he's just like
all this stuff is hitting him at once.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He just lost his job. Like,
life's just hitting.
There's gotta be some Drewski skit that like kind of like is like similar to this.
The boss? I mean, there's the Drewski skit of, like, the work wife one.
Yeah.
When you come home to your real wife.
My God.
Your work wife.
That's so funny.
That was not exactly the same.
Like, there's gotta be, like, a similar one, though. Like, it's kind of like this, type like this. When are we doing a Drewski skit episode?
Okay. No.
A modern auteur.
He's got some great ones. Ones. But anyway, then we get this great shot of a husband like just backlit smoking at night, like the cig smoke. It's a weird shot too, because like you get you can kind of see like his shadow and him in the same shot, and it's like still brightly lit.
It's like I think
it's like a weird. I was trying to think about how he did it.
There's like some type of cloth in between, or it might be like netting.
Well, it's a mosquito net.
Okay.
Oh, like because they're in bed.
Was there like a lot of those? Like
yes, you even still in India still people use them a lot because there's so many mosquitoes and stuff. Especially with no air conditioning, obviously. They even make a joke about air conditioning in the movie.
They still have no air conditioning.
I mean, more people do now, but a lot of people still don't. which is crazy. Yeah,
they do make a joke about air conditioning.
I'm pretty sure they don't have like air conditioning in the UK.
Actually, a lot of people in India don't even like air conditioning.
Well, the UK it's always 60 degrees. They don't need air conditioning
until it's like really hot and they're like complaining about it.
Until climate change.
Yeah, until climate change, like, exactly.
Then we got here British people.
Well, that's why I was like, my uncle's wife is from Scotland. They live in Scotland, and they're thinking about moving back to the States, but she refuses to move to Arkansas or anywhere south because it's too hot in the summer. I'm just like, fair. It's very hot in the summer, but at the same time, it's just like you can go way worse places than Arkansas in the summer, like Alabama.
Even though it's getting pretty bad here in the summer.
It is getting pretty bad here in the summers.
But that's your Arkansas weather update. Back to the big city.
We gotta throw an Arkansas shout out every episode.
No, because this is basically the ending of the movie of these last two scenes, and I was wondering why you did these back to back. Because first it's this husband coming to basically, you think he's maybe confronting the boss. You don't know why he's exactly there. Like, what's he gonna do?
He likes this guy.
yeah, and he ends up liking this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the boss recognized him immediately. Like, oh, you're the husband. I saw your picture in her purse or something. And that's when the boss starts hating on Edith. He's like, our ex-ruler has left quite a clan behind. But to me, I think it's just there because like the boss suggests like, oh, I can get you a job.
Yeah.
Like that's like the scene where like, oh, the boss is kind of a good guy, you know, like he even might get him a job too as well as her. Yeah. And so like what the scene immediately after is her giving her resigning and basically standing up for Edith. So I think it's kind of enhanced that kind of drama, basically.
The contrast and the scenes, especially in lighting, is insane. Because whenever the husband's talking to him, it's so bright in there, like it's all white. Everything. You think everything's gonna be great, and the immediate next scene is a cut to the. Or I don't know if it's immediate, but it's like just the fucking boss's office and all those clouds just behind them. It's just like insane.
Shot of like the street.
No, you're right. Because like. Even that's what I'm saying. Like he's so good, and he's made me think a lot about this. Is like, what's the background of what you're shooting behind someone?
Yeah.
And just like how many ways you can use a room just like that. Like I brought this up a lot. It's like Godard 2 with the what film was it? You know what I'm talking about.
What?
Interiors. Godard shooting interiors.
Woman is Woman.
Yes.
Where he used the soundstage.
Yes.
Even though like.
But I was thinking of Actually, Godard with any interiors. Even Breathless. No, but even Breathless.
No, you were thinking Contempt, probably.
Contempt,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that could have been any movie.
Yeah. But it's basically how Godard is very similar to how Godard shoots. Like he's so creative with how he uses backgrounds. Like because it's like the same room, but now all of a sudden it's like a dark. It has
the feeling you get from the room is way.
Because I'm looking at the stills now. It's like there's the shot like now the way she shot. The background is like this dark kind of poster behind her. Black. Yes. It's a black poster. So now, like, it has a whole new moodiness to it, just the way he's cutting back to that same shot. Yeah. And then, like Blake said, there's like a storminess outside too, which is enhancing him. And, like the way he's standing now, it's like these wide shots of like
it's like a noir.
He's like more dramatic. Yeah,
like
exactly,
noir,
exactly. And it's all like
it's like Kiss Me Deadly.
I don't think he's kind of standing like the dad in that Nicolas Ray movie.
But noir is actually a great point because this is what I was saying. Like the ending feels he's trying to set up this like, kind of Hollywoodish ending, you know, where she's like making this heroic act. And they're gonna have this kind of resolution at the end too, because of it. But yeah, this is basically like what I said. Like she, Edith, we find out that he's basically fired Edith for because it's all implied. Like he thinks she's like been partying or whatever, you know, even whatever he thinks like immoral.
He's being racist. Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks he's been immoral by skipping work. Instead of not actually being sick.
Well, and he literally says to Mukherjee that she's doing the work of Edith and her, so why would he keep her on?
I mean,
which that is actually a very common thing.
Yes, that's actually a very modern, economic thing too. Capitalist.
Like just putting more work on your better employees' plates so you can let other good employees go too, basically. But
basically testing how much stress you can put on them.
Exactly.
But yeah, but then she leaves. This dramatic shot of her, like I mentioned, the handheld shot of her walking down the stairs too.
I love her just throwing because you already talked about the resignation coming back. Because I love her just throwing into his face and saying, "Just change the dates," and then she just walks out.
Yeah, that is a good. It's
moment. Like a mic drop moment.
Yeah, he's like, "Damn, she had this ready." Already?
Exactly. Like
I thought she liked it here.
I thought she liked it here.
But then it's like this is where like this ending where I maybe like the initial ending where like she's sad that okay, yes, I can just make this big moment of change, and she's like sad about it. But then like the sudden shift of all of a sudden she's like happy because like,
I don't think this is
her.
a bad thing though.
I don't know. It feels like so like awkward. Like all of a sudden now it's like optimistic ending versus to me it kind of makes more sense. It's more like she's as a pessimistic kind of.
I think it's optimistic though because the whole point about living in the big city is your opportunities are endless, and that's what they kind of realize in this moment.
The movie
so
is
like,
called the
well,
Big
actually,
City.
this is what I'm gonna love about the Calcutta trilogy. Where the two of the ones we're doing is actually are they endless?
That's true. That's true. On the surface, they're endless because they say in this like we can get a job anywhere because you technically can, but yeah, as we'll see.
Well, see,
as
this
we'll
is
see,
what I'm like.
not
This is
really
why I don't like. Maybe she can. We've seen her potential. I don't know
Yeah.
about him,
That's fair too.
and that's why I don't know like her like all of a sudden becoming happy. I don't know. I just don't know if I buy it.
I don't know. It's got a very the Southerner ending feel. Like they just went through this hardship and they're just gonna stick.
But to me,
it.
that one's even more like ambivalent about how it's going to turn out.
Okay.
This one is just like, oh, they're like all of a sudden it's like a sudden shift. Like she's literally just crying, like just leaving the place crying. Comes down and the husband's like, oh, I support you now, and she's like, oh, now I feel very happy about everything. It's like I don't know. But I do like this last shot too.
The last shot's great.
This last shot at the zoom out as they're walking
Yeah.
into the big city again.
And it just freezes
And-
on a light.
Well, do you remember one of the lights is out?
Yeah.
It's two
I
lights.
thought two of the lights were out.
No.
I
Do you
thought
like
there were
it?
3 lights and 2 were out.
Did you
No,
like
it's two
Antonioni?
lights. One of them is loud.
Okay.
Do you like Antonioni?
I know he talks about him
This is literally like the ending of Lake Lease.
with the light.
He ends on a light bulb. Or is this Lake? Yeah. Or wait, no, is that La Ventura? I think it's the Eclipse. Antonioni, his last
La
one.
Ventura is the island, right? With them at the end, like
Lee Cleese is Monica Vitti and Elaine Delon.
I don't remember Lee Cleese. I remember La
But I'm
Ventura.
pretty sure he ends that movie on a light bulb as well.
This one is interesting because Ray said he doesn't know this. He was while he was shooting it, they panned up and zoomed in on this light, thinking it's just gonna be a light. But then if you look closely,
Yeah.
like I'm looking right now, there's actually one of them is out and one of them is lit.
Well, one of them's completely missing. It looks
Yeah, it's
like,
missing.
Actually.
It's missing. The bulb is out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bulb is missing. It looks like. And just not. But yeah, either way, like he said he didn't know that, or at least it was like just like a stroke of luck. But it's like brought a lot of interpretation after that of like what does that mean? Like, is it as optimistic as people are saying? Because it's like basically what I just said. Like her future looks hopeful. Like does his? And you could say like that actually fits his like image at the end too.
And as
like,
we see
one
in the
light bulb's
adversary,
out,
his
and
is
then-
not. Okay.
But that is that's the big city. Good movie.
Ooh.
I would say great.
Whoa.
Very good.
That's not what you said initially. Damn. He's backtracking.
Just compared to the next movie that we're about to talk about, I'm very excited
Yeah.
to talk about. Is I like more.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
But we'll be back after this short break to talk about Charulata. And we're back from the break to continue the episode by talking about 1964's Charulata. I was already hinting at this at the beginning of this during the first part, but this is obviously one of my favorite movies. And like I said last week, I hadn't seen this in like 3 years, so I was really excited to watch this again. And honestly, like it might have improved in some ways. Like I was kind of nervous that it wouldn't hold up since I hadn't watched it in 3 years. But no, there's a lot I'm excited to talk about in this. Like, just watching it, it took me so long because I was taking so many notes too. But that's a good thing. Let me start with you, Blake. What do you think about Charlotte?
No, I love Charulata. I loved it the first time I watched it too. It wasn't my favorite Ray movie. As we've watched these ones so far, it's been my favorite. I'm excited to see if that changes or if that stays the same with the later ones, because from what I remember of Ray my first time through, these later ones that we'll get to soon are what I actually really loved. But no, Charlotte this time was fucking amazing. Like, I hadn't seen it in I think it was 2019 whenever I last saw it, 2018, and I hadn't watched a lot of movies at that time, obviously. But after watching even more of cinema, my appreciation of the movie, I feel like, has just grown. like watching it this time, because it's kind of just like the feeling this movie gives you. Like, last time, like, whenever I first watched it, I would have taken it probably more literally as just like this woman's, or like it was more of just like a straight romance movie. But this time, I think I already mentioned before, like it kind of feels like it's this feeling of this breath of freedom, or like this, like the first glimpse of like a free, like this like creative freedom or something, that, or like this creative liberty you can have over your own life that you never thought was possible before. And the only way you even kind of know about that is by this other creative presence coming in and like making you realize like you had this inside of you or something. I don't know. I kind of like that's the feeling this movie gives me. It's just like it feels like it just feels very like hopeful and fresh and just like very loving of this creative process, and kind of loving of how a lot of the writers in these magazines at the time, in this time of India, would actually write. Like it kind of feels like Satyajit Ray loves these type of stories that were put in these magazines, like that Mukherjee would be writing in this movie or whatever. Like just like stories about like this My Village or whatever. Like, I know we haven't even really talked about. I know that you've mentioned that Satyajit Ray is himself a writer, but he actually has written a lot of short stories too. Yes. That would probably also be put in magazines if they were back in the day. But so that's just also another interesting element. But I don't know. I did really love this movie. It's very interesting what he's doing, just like with the camera too, because there's a lot of amazing shots. Like the swing shot is just, it's one of the great shots in his filmography, honestly. But just like the cage bird metaphors compared to like how the feeling that you get at the ending of this movie whenever it actually ends, I don't know, because like there's a lot of shit that happens in this movie, because like I only think about Mukherjee whenever I originally like think about this movie, but whenever you like actually think harder about it, it's like there's so much going on with just like the men in this movie too. Like they almost seem like a backdrop, but I don't know. There's a lot going on in this movie, and I am excited to get into it. But I did love it a lot this time. So,
what about you, Luke?
Yeah, I love this movie. I pretty much agree with everything Blake said. Although the ending's interesting, because I don't know if it's like super like, I don't know, it's complicated, because I don't know if it's like optimistic necessarily. Like I almost feel like it's about like, it's like, I guess maybe for her it could be read as optimistic. I don't know, because the freeze frame, obviously, like
it's a great shot.
Because like it's like they're about to like kind of like embrace, I guess, and it kind of freezes before they embrace. So it's kind of like I almost honestly it makes me think like, can this even be repaired at this point? Like that's kind of how I read it.
What do you think?
I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. I think that's the part of the whole thing. What do you think? Like,
but
that's why it stops right there instead of the hands actually touching.
It's kind of like immortalizing it in a way.
But I think let's try to answer that question at the end of after we go through the movie, talking about it.
It ends on a painting for sure, as you kind of said.
It's actually not one freeze frame.
It's a couple.
Oh yeah, it does, dude. Yeah.
It pulls back.
It's
because it ends on this moment. Yeah.
Both reactions and the servant. There's like a close up on the servant, and then it shows all of them. Kind of ends on that painting, like on the shirt.
No, yeah, that's an incredible moment. But just the ways he like finds like the way he just like shoots all the interiors, and just like finds different like cool ways formally to express them is really cool. A lot of all time shots here. It's just a beautiful movie. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites from Ray.
All right. Okay, first I was going to mention a few things, like kind of give some just random things I found, and then also talk about this Devapriya Sanyal. She talks about Charulata specifically in a certain frame that I want to mention. But first, like, I want to mention, what do you guys think about how easy or hard is this movie to understand in terms of all the references? Because it's actually a really interesting movie in terms of, like, Andrew Robinson, the guy that wrote The Inner Eye about Ray, he mentions like it's actually he says basically basically, I'll read the quote in a little bit, but he talks about basically it's a very interesting mix of Eastern and Western elements. And Ray also talks about this too, because like Blake already talked about a little aspect, this creative aspect, and we see this in kind of the writings of what they're writing into. But more specifically, it's also in what she's reading.
Yeah. Like
even at the very beginning of the movie, she mentions this author Bankim. Like she's like singing his name and stuff. And later on, like right when Amal comes in, he's like singing this quote when the thunder comes in and he comes in. That's a quote from the same author, and basically this idea of what's her interests at the time are these like very kind of nationalistic Bengali writers that they're reading, both of them. And then if you contrast that to the husband, what he's reading, it's a lot of English nationalistic patriotic literature, almost like kind of like How to Become a Free Country, you know, like India in that perspective. But he's basically reading all British literature. And even in the quotes he's saying, like even like the conversations they have are just like, oh, I'll teach you about politics sometime, you know, basically ignoring everything she's saying about like the book she reads. Like he even says something like my friend read something you read and it made him sleep for 3 days. Like all the thinking
he couldn't sleep.
Yeah, he couldn't sleep for days with all the thinking it made him do. It's like that's like kind of pointless, you know.
That's somehow that thing.
But like you can see that, and like that actually makes it hit all the more in kind of this like East-West divide in terms of she's like Eastern and he's like a more Western mindset in terms of like, so when the brother-in-law does come in, you can see why like, and she feels such a connection to him all of a sudden. You can see why that's like the big split, like her realization, kind of like why is that even happening, you know? And you kind of mentioned this last week. We said cousin, I think, on the episode, but it's actually brother-in-law.
Well, it wasn't on the podcast.
Is it cousin?
It was.
We were.
It was because I remember listening to the editing.
Yeah.
Actually, we were talking about this.
Were we talking about it?
You said cousin, and because that's when we went on our Arkansas tangent of like, oh, people in Arkansas cousins still get married, but it's actually because this is a classic example of if you don't know the history and stuff, you'll make a joke like, no, I'm kidding, no. No, but seriously though, because apparently this was in a Bengali convention called a D-bar, or I don't know how to say it exactly, D-bar or D-bar relationship, which is, let me read Ray's quote, because it's interesting backdrop. Quote, there's a Bengali convention about the relations between a wife and her D-bar, her younger brother-in-law. It's always a very affectionate relationship, and she is free to come out before him, not before other men. The brother-in-law might well be studying in college with lots of free time, making demands on her to cook certain foods. In fact, it even goes closer than that. It always verges on a kind of intimacy, which is exactly as shown in Charulata, where the younger brother is attracted to the sister-in-law, but is afraid of going beyond a certain point. He realizes that there's danger there, so it creates a situation that is rather tense, but also pleasing for both the characters. The pleasure is very much there because he has the sanction of the convention that he can mix with her. So there's always the possibility that a relationship of rather deep nature might develop. Even now, in a comparatively orthodox Hindu households, the Dabar is a very special figure from the wife's point of view. So he's saying like this is a very contextual kind of relationship, especially in the late 19th century, where like we talked about in the big city, like her going out for the first time and seeing other men is like a big step in modernization. Now we're going back in time. Basically, she's like the whole point of the movie. She's stuck in a house. There are very few encounters with other men she has. We see her husband, who she doesn't like, who doesn't relate to her at all. So when she does the kind of relationship she is allowed to have with another man, where she does relate with him on this kind of creative kind of level we're talking about, it kind of like brings that out even more, you know. Especially like this whole trapped feeling, I think is part of that aspect to it too, you know, like where she's like so scared of him leaving, where she's gonna feel trapped again, you know, that kind of panic she has. But I think that kind of relationship is kind of interesting, you know, just explaining that in terms of like it makes sense, especially in that time, you know, where women weren't allowed to basically go out at all. Especially like, and we'll talk about that at the opening scene. Like that's why she's so interested in like even just looking outside.
Yeah,
you know. And we haven't talked about him much too, but I know Blake has read a little bit of Tagore. But Tagore also wrote he's a really famous Bengali writer. And he also wrote about like women's liberation and stuff. And he wrote this story. It's called The Broken Nest. And it's really interesting that basically, so the story is called The Broken Nest, and apparently, and I actually read it a few years ago, and I like barely remember it, but like the story is more about the whole it's about more about the family dynamics, and Ray kind of shifts in and calls it Charulata to make it more about her, which is one interesting thing, kind of like how he shifts the story. But apparently Tagore, he had a very similar relationship in his own life with his sister-in-law when he was growing up, and apparently she committed suicide or something.
Damn.
And he said later in his life like she always was on his mind and stuff. So like Ray said like he like went over his notes when he was writing this short story, and he said like in his notes he had like drawings of her and stuff, so you could tell it was like really clearly like biographical and stuff as well. But before we get into the movie, there's like one other aspect I wanted to mention, which I thought was interesting, and it was the Deborah Priya Sanyal in her Gender Modernities book. She basically mentions it's also the big city heroine, but mainly in Charulata, this idea of basically in film, this idea of transgressive woman, this idea adulterous woman, and what are they allowed to do in cinema. And she like first she kind of talks about Hollywood and also Hindi or Bollywood cinema too. And basically, like she says like if you see an adulterous woman, usually it's only in noir films in Hollywood, and even then, usually they're killed at the end or they have to be punished in some way, right? If there's an adulterous woman, they're going to be punished in some way. And she kind of points out like Hollywood has a very kind of conservative family value system. You know, even today it does.
Yes.
Like if you break this family value code, you have to be killed. You know, and she mentions some of the movies she mentions are kind of like I've never even seen, but the first movie she mentions is Double Indemnity, where basically the woman is killed at the end of that one for threatening the family. It's like a good point too. This idea of like
I remember that.
First of all, it only happens in noir, you know, only a certain kind of genre, and then even in that genre, you still have to kind of kill the adulterous woman or whatever. What's the Nicholas Ray movie? No, not Nicholas Ray.
No, it's the other one. Yeah,
Jack Turner.
Jack Turner. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Cat People?
No. The best one. His best one.
Out of the Past?
Yes. Out of the Past.
What happens with her? Does she die?
Yeah, she does.
She dies with
the adulterous one dies. The good one.
It's basically she has to in a way.
That one's
at least
very.
Ray
specific.
makes it interesting in terms of like he kind of makes it it's not clear, cut and dry.
Yeah.
For the most part,
Turner makes it,
or Turner. Yeah, I keep saying. I don't know why I get the confused. Maybe I watched it. I mean,
they're similar. They're similar in certain ways.
They've got some similarities for sure. But then she makes this point, which I think is really interesting. In both these movies, especially in Charulata, the transgression is not necessarily negative. It's actually not. The transgression is what leads to what Blake was saying. This whole idea of her realizing this kind of creative side of her. You know, this other side of her she wouldn't realize. And let me read what she says. She says, quote, "In Tagore's story, as well in Ray's cinematic text, an indulgent husband and an obliging brother-in-law encourage Charu to read and write and even publish, and her writing becomes a kind of critical gaze on the world. Portraying a woman as a writer implies that she is surveying the world rather than being surveyed. And Ray, by doing so with a 19th century woman, can be seen as portraying the early stages of feminine emancipation. The opening sequence significantly begins with Charlotta surveying the world, although through opera glasses." I think that's a really good, interesting, like, kind of point of, like, basically that idea of the treacherous woman is always, it's basically always from a male point of view, you know? Like, the woman is hurting the kind of male ideal of a family, you know? But this is totally different. It's, like, her point of view. Like, it's her transgression actually leads to her realization. You know, it has nothing to do with the... And basically, like, she says the man is... a later part of the essay, she mentions, like, basically the men in this movie are being used normally how women are used, as the object. You know, she's literally viewing him at one point, like, when she literally has this moment of realization, you know, while viewing him through the glasses. What it's usually the other way around, you know, where the man is kind of having this while viewing a woman. And, like, just doing this in the 60s, it's like... And it's so subtle too. Like, it's not like I said. It's not very. It's like it's still a very story-oriented movie, you know. But at the same time, it is very much about these things of like, how like at least he's a modern director. how like this early signs, like she says, the early signs of feminine emancipation and this kind of early modernity that's happening. He's still very attentive to it, and at the same time, kind of critiquing the men too. Of like she points out like this kind of at the time there was like this Bengal Renaissance happening in terms of like basically these kind of even states within India kind of realizing their own independence from the British, and she points out how like a lot of these Bengal Renaissance writers would write about in the public sphere about the emancipation of women and stuff, but in their home like not realize what was going on. You know, like and the husband's kind of a classic case of this. Yeah. You know, where like in public he's like kind of very much for liberal ideas and stuff, but then basically he's not paying attention to his woman, his own wife at his home. You know, and like her kind of.
That's why I think the overall feeling I get from this movie is one of hope, because it has this hopeful, like this feeling of this women's emancipation basically, and also the husband realizes, like he actually sees his wife at the very end of this crying, runs away, but he comes back. And like I don't know, I think the ending's honestly beautiful, because I think they're both accepting of this new life. That's at least my view of it, but because the husband I don't think would come back if that wasn't the case, but I don't know. And she wouldn't have accepted him back if that wasn't the case. Because I don't think she's going to keep... I think she's going to continue writing on, like, in this movie. Like, she's not going to stop. Yeah. No. I don't know. But maybe... I don't know. We'll have to go through it, though, maybe.
I know. It's not surprising to me that you're taking the optimistic side. That's just who you are. I mean, I'm surprised Luke's not, honestly.
Like, it's like kind like,
in a way. Well, see, that's the thing. It's not necessarily pessimistic. That's why you want to say it's optimistic. But then you're like, is it really...
It just depends on like whose perspective.
I guess and how you're actually reading the characters, like how you read, like what's happened in the film. How are they going to take it, basically? Like, because you know, okay, we'll get to it.
Yeah, I don't think any characters in this are evil character or bad characters at all. Honestly, I think all of them are complex.
Yes. But let me read my favorite quote from Deborah Priya Sanyal. It kind of goes to this idea of like all of us have heard this phrase, the male gaze, right, in cinema. Yeah. And like how basically cinema has almost always been specifically about the male gaze, like from direct. Even this film, like that's why I like Ray as an observational, where I'm always saying he's not preachy or he's not polemical, because he's not a woman at the end of the day. You know, he's still a male making this film. But I like how he's trying to at least approach the topic from a female perspective of like. What could they have possibly had? These kind of moments they could have had of like realizing, these kind of moments of realization they could have had. And let me read her quote because it's so good. So quote. But when she realizes that her gazing on Amal is sexual, Charo is nevertheless shocked. Myriads of emotions across her face as she understands what the gaze reveals to her, her own desire, till then hidden from her. This act of looking then becomes inextricably linked with that of a woman's self-discovery as she finds herself, not only in the act of literary creativity, but also as a woman being able to desire. As critic Ben Nice points out, Charulata is nothing but a drama of awareness. The erotics of gazing are subsumed within the inward gaze at her own self and become part of Charu's growth towards self-knowledge. In effect, her outward gaze is transformed into an introspective one. The film is thus successful in showing how, in a woman, the erotic gaze initiates a process of rational self-inquiry and self-reflection. As in other woman-centric films by Ray, we see that it is the man who aids, albeit unknowingly, the woman in discovering herself. And I think that's a great way of, like, just like the literal way we see her looking throughout the film, and just like what that means to her kind of process of self-realization. And I think that's what makes Ray even kind of like that's what makes it a risky film, is like, she finds that realization through transgression, right? Through this idea of desiring someone that's not her husband, you know? And that's what makes it even more special. She doesn't have to die at the end of the film because of it, you know? Yeah. She actually does, like, same with The Big City, she actually finds more value in herself because of it. Not less so. And that's why I think the film is not literally about the kind of cheating. They actually never cheat, you know? To me, that's actually what makes the film more erotic in some ways, is like, especially in cinema, but even in life too, like eroticism doesn't necessarily have to be like literal touching or literal sensations, you know? Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Even that one is still like, even the way it's shot is like too sensationalist for me. But, I mean,
hey, I just knew he was gonna like.
Like, I mean, to be like, At that point, just give me Michael Bay slow-mo over Wong Kar-wai. I'm not even kidding.
I personally prefer the Psy version of sex. So no. But
see,
of adultery.
Is that?
Yeah. I mean, no.
Every director's a pussy except for Nagisa Oshima. Because they just be actually fucking.
But see, I don't know if those movies are about eroticism the same way as these are.
Well,
it's kind of desire about desire.
No, I know.
You know?
It's not like, it's more complicated, obviously. But,
yeah.
But he actually did it, you know.
He actually did it, you know.
It makes it more like pornographic, I guess.
Well, depends what you mean by pornographic. Define that.
Like a literal description, I guess, presentation of it.
But is that what it is?
I guess I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I think part of it is a literal presentation of it.
Part of it, but then like, what's the use? Anyway.
Fair enough. Okay. But yeah, that's actually the last thing. Like as I think about this movie, it's basically this kind of act of gazing. In terms of, it kind of actually, now that I'm thinking about it, reminds me of last week when I talked about Rasa. You know, this idea of like, as we're watching the whole take place, it's really about the viewer's experience, you know?
Yeah.
And in a way, like, the kind of, there's this kind of, like Blake said, you get the feeling.
Yeah. That's why I said the overwhelming feeling I get from this movie is one of, like, hope, honestly. Or of just, like, not hope, but just, like, awakening.
I think awakening
is probably a better word for it.
And to me, that's actually what Ross has a big part of. Is like, a lot of the writers that I was talking about last week, theorists, they would compare it to, like, the spiritual kind of, like a spiritual kind of awakening or moment. You know, like the art has a very similar kind of, like when you have this almost, like, Rasa is like almost like you watch the whole film and you have the feeling, not necessarily any thoughts, any images, nothing, just the feeling it gives you after. That's the kind of Rasa. That's the experience of the film. It's like the proof that there's experience, you know. Yeah. And like that's what this one gives me the most of, even more in the big city. Like there's not necessarily, like we said, there's like, it's kind of about this awakening, but it's more about this feeling, you know, you get as you're watching it. And it makes you want to kind of pay attention to a movie, maybe more to your own life as well. But I think we can go ahead and get into it. Like I said, the opening scene is like one of my favorites. Like, it has the opening shot of her just like sewing the bee for her husband's name. And then like we basically see her kind of just wander around this house. And I have a few different Ray quotes of like how he talks about this opening scene, because you could tell he was really proud of it too. So first he quote on the beginning of the film, he said, quote, "Attempts to use a language entirely free from literary and theatrical influences. Except for one line of dialogue in its 7 minutes, the scene says what it has to say in terms that speak to the eye and to the ear." And so you could tell he's definitely trying to basically show everything without any talking, you know. And then he says on the scene, "It was important to stress this playful aspect of Charu, because this is where she is furthest from her styed husband and closest to the youthful, exuberant Amal." I think that's also important, basically showing like why she's gonna get so excited when when Amal shows up, you know, compared to her husband. Because like literally we see like we get these like very striking shots of her like walking through different rooms, you know. She goes and gets a book while singing like the author's name. Then like the soundtrack's also changing multiple times. Like we hear like there's like drums outside that she then goes like, "Oh, I wonder."
Well, it's just all diegetic. So.
Yeah, it's all diegetic.
We should also mention the score for this movie is fire.
It is.
Yes. Charu's theme especially.
No, yeah, that shit.
I just love all the diegetic music that's in this movie too, because like Amal plays the piano multiple times as well as Charu. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, you made an edit for this movie too, really?
Yeah, I did.
Damn.
I like that.
Gotta bring it back.
I'll put in the notes.
Put in the description. Okay.
We gotta make more.
Gotta make another one.
Yeah.
No, but then like that's when she like hears something going outside, and that's when she decides to grab these opera glasses. And I love this shot too, like the extreme close up while she's like swinging them in her hand.
Yeah.
As she's walking with them. And then like that's when she like literally starts turning her gaze to various things.
You should get a pair of these.
I kind of want one on.
Like, do they still make them? Like,
yeah.
No, definitely. Operas still exist.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, really?
Google opera glasses Temu.
That's a mission for us afterwards.
Yeah. But anyway, I love this shot because then like there's also a great shot too because like she's like looking through the window and then I love the shot where all of a sudden it kind of like zooms out wide for the first time and we see her in the room before her husband gets home, and then I think that's when it plays Charu's theme for the first time too. There we go.
$26 on eBay.
Okay. Are they gold?
Huh?
Are they gold?
No, they're brass. What?
Brass.
They would not be. If
I mean gold colored. I mean,
if they were gold, they'd be a lot more expensive than $26.
Bro wants to like live luxury.
We're not actually high class, Danny.
No, but then she like uses the same opera glasses. Her husband just like walks by her without even acknowledging her. It's kind of funny how she's literally like right next to her too, like staring at him, and he still doesn't notice. And then Ray calls this last shot too, where he calls it like the flourish at the end of an essay, where it's this great like it's this fast zoom out shot where like she's looking at the husband, all of a sudden right when he looks back at her, she puts her glasses down, and it zooms out like really fast, and that's how the scene ends. Kind of showing like maybe she's like hiding an aspect of her from him. Then we get the scene of her eating with her husband.
This is whenever he's like telling her about like you can't be getting used to loneliness or whatever, and that his brother's coming.
Yeah. He's like surprised that she's lonely. Like you can tell he hasn't thought about her much.
Exactly.
Like, what do you think she's doing all day? Like by herself? He's like shocked that she's lonely. That's also when she's like he's like telling her someday I'll explain politics to you. But then she gives him the this great shot of her giving him this embroidered thing she gets for him for the first time too.
It's like a little handkerchief.
Yeah, the handkerchief. But then it cuts to I love this
which the handkerchief comes back at the end. It is kind of important.
Oh, with the husband.
Yeah, with the husband.
Yeah,
so.
he looks at the
But
that's when he tells her like the brother's wife is going to come to keep her company because this is also another example where the husband is like you can tell he's at least a nice guy to some degree, but at the same time like he's clearly not thinking about her because like the wife that comes is like the exact opposite of her, you know. And I love the way Ray shows this because like he's like this is another example of his like subtle contrast where like he's like, oh, your brother's wife will come to give you company, and then it cuts to basically this like mindless card game. She literally calls it a mindless card game where it's literally just war, I think they're playing, or some version of it, where it's like she's like there's literally no thinking in this, it's just total luck, where it's like you pass up the cards and you put them back out and see who like has the more
no, it's about determination, Danny.
Yeah, it's like, it's about determination until she loses at
the very end.
But like you can tell like it's like kind of like the opposite of what she's interested in, like in terms of like reading, and she wants to discuss like kind of more like modern issues, I guess, in a way. And like I think he's kind of comparing her to this wife who like obviously is not interested in this stuff. They even like later talk about this essay that Bankim wrote called "The Modern versus the Traditional Woman."
Yes,
and it's like literally he's kind of in a way comparing these two as that, you know, like she's more, the other wife is more okay being the traditional woman, you know, who doesn't really. Apparently, the essay they talk about like who only. Actually, no, they even quote it where it's like the modern woman, traditional woman, like only like is.
He's basically quoting it, and everything he's saying about the whatever woman that he's talking about is applied directly to Charu. So. Yes. Because she's not the traditional woman.
No, at least she doesn't want to be. She's actually interested in these other ideas and stuff. But then it's like we see them both like basically bored out of their minds, like lying in bed, and that's when. Via literal storm in a way, like this all it gets really windy all of a sudden, and that's when Amal arrives. Basically, to a literal representation of being from boredom to excitement, and why she's gonna be so excited that he's there all of a sudden. But yeah, he gets a job with
which I mean, this guy I already forgot his name, but
Amal.
No, I just meant the actor.
So much Chatterjee. Yeah, no, he's
he just lights up the room whenever he walks in, you know.
No, he is great in this one too. Bhupati, the husband, shows him like his printing press and stuff, and I just realized like how small the font is in like this paper he's produced. Like, damn, like people were reading like small ass font back then.
He's got some funny ass quotes about
they have to use the opera glasses to read the newspaper.
Well, they got some funny ass lines in this movie about like the smell of the printing press being way better than whatever Amal's used to, also, which is really funny. But because he's just trying to get him to work, obviously. Because the whole thing, whenever he first walks in, he's like, "Are you ready to work?" And then Amal's like, "What, work? No, I don't want to work."
No,
What?
Yeah, he's the more easygoing type.
Yeah. He's like, "I've come here to relax, eat, drink wine, and relax some more." And then the brother's like, "Well, relax some more off that, then you got it right or whatever." But
yeah, no, you can tell they definitely have different personalities. I think he's trying to emphasize that too, like why she's drawn to one over the other, maybe.
Yes.
But yeah, then like we get the scene of like where he's like she like sees the huge tear in his shirt while like he's singing and stuff. Like you said, there's a lot of great like diegetic singing of what he's just singing to her and stuff.
Yes.
And especially for like 19th century times, like him taking off his overshirt for her is like, you know, the most like, it's like super risky. I was like, in my notes, like this is basically like getting naked on screen for India at the time. But then this is where we get the scene of like the husband telling Amal how he doesn't read like, you know, the Bengali authors because of like they made his friends stay awake so much, and like they don't talk about real issues like politics and stuff. He's like, politics is a real living thing compared to the other one, which is like the way he says that too is like, I think like that's another just example of emphasizing why Sharu's kind of like on the opposite side, because like obviously to her there are other living things outside of just politics, you know. But at the same time, like he kind of like doesn't make the husband a villain, because at the next time, his next basically statements are like, I know Sharu's really talented with writing, so you should teach her now. And that's basically how he like sets them up to have their whole swing scene and stuff.
To have their affair. No, I'm just
kidding. Yeah. It's not really a fair though.
No, it's not.
It seems like that. He's setting that up. And this is the great scene. Basically, the scene it leads to the swing scene. You can say it's all one scene of them like talking in the room, where he's like, I was thinking all of life is like a rhythm. He's like all of life's like a rhythm: birth, death, day, night, happiness, sorrow, meeting, parting, like the waves on the ocean, now rising, now falling. One complements the other. I think there's like music playing in the background too while he's saying it. And basically just show the shots of them like kind of looking at, more specifically her looking at him while he's like just kind of like
lounging.
Yeah, lounging and stuff. Like her gaze focusing on how she's seeing him. But then they talk about like Bankim and how like basically various authors and stuff kind of getting seeing how they're on the same page about a lot of stuff, like what they're interested in. But then because during this time while in the room, the other wife is also there and she's like getting bored, and it kind of like in the room she ends up falling asleep.
Yeah.
And that's when they decide to go outside.
Yeah.
And I love the shot too, because it cuts to a close up of the her laying the mat on the outside.
Oh, yeah,
as they cut to the outside, and just like so naturally, just like we're outside like right away. And then he's like they're outside, and he gets nervous where she's like, "Can you come push me on the swing?" And he's like, "Oh, you know," he's getting nervous, but then he's like, "Oh, it's not a big deal." It's one of my favorite quotes in the movie where she's like, "Oh, what's the harm in a push?" And you could say that's like that's kind of what starts this whole chain, basically. Where she's like swinging, this great shot of like, honestly iconic shot of the camera on her. I honestly don't know how they shot it, because like those cameras were heavy.
Yeah.
But there's like basically, it seems like it's on her lap, while she's swinging, like basically looking at her face. And then as she's like, she starts to after she stops swinging, she's like using the opera glasses, looking around. She sees like a kid with the mom and stuff, and then she like keeps looking, and then she sees him. I think that's like, and this is the moment where she has like that realization of she basically likes him, you know, or like basically likes, you know, what he kind of represents anyway, you know.
Yeah.
Because like the music theme changes, like the music theme changes, and like to me in my notes, I think it's the longest shot of her in close up actually thinking. Like it lasts a long time, and then like her, I forgot why she gets mad when she leaves. Oh yeah, that's why. Because like it's like right after he like basically reveals on accident that the husband is the one that told her to teach him.
Yeah.
Because she thought this whole time he was just doing this like by himself, and then he tells her, "Oh, like the husband, your husband told me to teach you," and then she just like gets mad all of a sudden and leaves. But it's a really good scene of like basically her having all these thoughts. And it's like one very like this long scene of like what a mall kind of means to her really.
It's also like outside too.
Yes.
Which I feel like maybe like because in a way she's not like trapped.
I think that's very important. Yeah. Like why they literally go outside where she's having these.
It's kind of jarring too in a way. Like thinking about it in terms of the rest of the movie.
Like why? Just like because she has to go back inside, kind of thing.
Or like just like her being outside.
Yes.
It's like it's a contrast.
I should mention also during the scene, like she mentioned, she gives him this notebook.
Yeah.
That she's like,
you can't write,
you can't publish anything else. And that's also going to lead to, you know, their conflict too later on. But then like we get the scene of the husband and Charu talking about how he needs to get married, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, he just needs a good coke scene, and he'll be able to." Which is kind of funny. She's like so confident that like she'll be able to convince him to get married and stuff. And then like he's also in the room, and like this is another example of like how much this guy loves England too, the husband, where he's like telling him on oh, you'll get to see England, you know, all the greats, like the land of Shakespeare.
This was so funny.
Yeah,
because he was like, you get to go, or well, no, because Amal's the one that says the land of Shakespeare, and then the guy's and so much more.
Because Shakespeare's like the writer, so that's what Amal writes. And he says Burke, Macaulay, Gladstone. Because I think we're political.
He literally says you can go to Parliament and see all these great men talk. I wish I was in your place. I'm just like, oh my god. Your wife is literally in the room. Like, you're literally saying you wish that you could marry this girl who you go over. No,
he's saying more just to travel. Though.
No, yes, exactly. Which that's all Amal cares about too, basically. Yeah. But he doesn't even care about that, really, I guess. Because what does he say? Long live Bengal or something whenever he walks out. Or he starts singing a song about Bengal whenever he walks out after he's saying no.
Yeah. But then basically he says he asked for a few days, I think.
A month.
To think, or a month. Is a month. Okay. Yeah. But then this is where it kind of sets up the drama we do get in the movie of the brother, which we get the shot of him.
The other brother.
Yeah. The other brother. The brother, Sharu's brother.
Yeah.
Who's the one who's in charge of the money and stuff now. Where the husband kind of just like trusts because he trusts Charu that he's going to trust his brother. And the brother has this conversation with the wife. The same couple we just saw in the big city. Where they're like, basically, do you trust me? Like, he's basically asked her to lie for him. And she's going to, you know.
Well, we've been ignoring the printing press side of this movie, kind of, because it is kind of there. It's definitely in the background, yes. But there are scenes there, obviously, where this brother is basically telling this other, like, our main guy, like, you have to make your newspaper spicier if you want it to actually survive. Because that's the other thing about this husband, he's very much about the ideals behind certain things. Like, we've already kind of mentioned that with, like, some things he believes just in, like, just in politics, but he's definitely that way with business and stuff too, also, obviously. And he is way too trusting of his family members.
Really?
Like, that's the thing.
I think that's why it makes him a sympathetic character.
It is. That's why you don't hate him.
Yes.
Because it's like he has these ideals and this hope in the world, basically, yes, and then, like... Exactly.
And then he doesn't know what's going behind his back.
Exactly.
We're going to see this more with the chess players, where he's, like, making more fun of the husband specifically, where they're, like, literally getting cheated on behind their backs. Yeah, he's kind of interested in this kind of, like, I guess it's one kind of failed masculinity of these certain men just like
the
not knowing what's going on. Yeah, the idealist that doesn't know what's going on in their own home kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like an Opals thing.
I don't know. Like, which movie are you thinking of?
Like, just like, I can't think... Like, just like, men not knowing their wives or whatever.
Yes, I think that theme is definitely there. Like, basically the desires their wives actually have.
Yeah.
You know? Like, women actually have desires.
You like Opals, too.
Yeah. Honestly, Opals is definitely here in this scene, in these scenes. I don't know if Opals still doesn't... He never reaches this point of, like, the female gaze, so this kind of female perspective that I think... that Ray reaches, but I'm not sure. I'd have to think.
Not even like letter from an own woman, you think?
It's still from his perspective.
I guess it is from him. Oh.
It definitely is. 100%. It's about his kind of realization too of being too late almost, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like Plaisir with like the owner, but I don't know. But yeah, this is like one of my favorite scenes in the movie too. Of it cuts to the song of Amal singing. The song is called "Ame Chinigo Chinigo Tomari," but he's singing it. And it's just this great shot of him singing at the piano while she's like behind him watching, and then she like comes up, offers him what's called pan. And then like he like rejects it and stuff, and like she kind of like gets mad, annoyed, and like walks off while he's singing. And then all of a sudden like he gets up and like starts dancing with her too. And the soundtrack is interesting because it actually changes from diegetic to him singing to he stops singing. Then you hear it non-diegetically the song actually playing. And it's like him like dancing basically with like the kind of Western painting behind them. I don't even know who that is actually necessarily, but
just a Victorian painting.
Yeah, some kind of Victorian painting.
He makes a lot of gestures at them in the movie. That's really funny. Like,
yeah. No, but I just love this scene too. It's so fun to watch as he's singing. And then also, this is also where she's having another moment where like, what else can she do for him? Because like she sees his slippers on the ground, and that's where she's like, oh, I'm gonna embroider those. It's kind of just like this moment where she like sees like as he's singing to her, she like to me at least anyway, she's thinking about, oh, what can I do now for him? Yeah. And that's when she sees the slippers. But the movie changes like right after this scene, where the music changes. Like even the music changes as he starts like bragging. He gets the acceptance letter from the Lotus. Yeah. This like from the.
One of the newspapers.
The magazine he submitted to.
Basically, the one that... Was it the Lotus or was it the other one? The one that doesn't usually accept new writers.
No, he's the one that accepts the Lotus.
Yeah.
The philosopher is the one or the philanthropist is the one that doesn't accept new writers. And that's
the one that she gets into.
Yeah. That's kind of another little thing where like he's kind of hinting that she might be a better writer. But then, let me see, because Ray actually he actually found this really important too, this kind of... dramatic turn in the movie of like basically Amal kind of betraying her in a way, because he wrote he apparently determined it Mozartian, involving as it does 4 voices like the ensemble singing a Mozart's opera, which I'm not exactly sure. I don't know about Mozart's opera, but I guess that's true. But he says Ray said, quote, Amal's unexpected duplicity has stung Charlotte to the quick, and she has stung Charu quickly, and she runs through a whole gamut of feelings: shock, disbelief, smoldering anger, heart-wrenching agony, assuming with supreme effort a normal facade when her unsuspecting husband butts in, spouting politics, while self-centered Amal, fleshed by his first literary success, rubs salt in Charu's wound by his unfeeling ebullience, which apparently means cheerful, full of excitement. The entire goings-on observed with pensive detachment by Manda, Charu's earthy, uncomplicated sister-in-law. This is the scene where the note of tragedy struck for the first time, and it is this note which, like a pedal point, holds the scene together. I think that's interesting too. Like he saw this almost like tragic in a way, and that's where like Ray kind of mentioned like there's a lot of Western elements in the storytelling too, as much as an Eastern movie. In terms of like how he's telling the story too, with like thinking about Mozart and this kind of like tragic element all of a sudden of like an action that like can't be reversed almost, you know.
It is funny that the men don't realize it at all, but the women do, obviously, because Monda definitely does realize it. Because she, like, whenever she's the one that asked Amal to bring whatever that gift was, what is it, Hulky or something? The whatever snack that he was going to get
Kulfi.
them. Yeah, Kulfi.
I love the shot of where he like drops.
Whenever he drops it, because both of them like Charu obviously rejects it because she's very mad at him, and Monda also ends up rejecting it because she's. It feels like she's one with Haru or Charu at that moment. I don't know. Like she's like, no, you did her wrong. Basically, I don't know. It's like I don't know. Because it's like. It's just weird that she asked for the Kulfi, and then whenever he actually offered it to her, she's like, no, I don't want it. And then he just drops it, it is a funny scene also whenever he drops it. But.
That's interesting. I didn't even thought about that. I like that. But it's at the end of the scene, too, is where we get this kind of... We see this multiple... Almost like a... He does this multiple times, but it's kind of like... it's like a 45-degree downward angle shot where you just see like this object where she has this idea after seeing an object. This time she looks down and sees the philanthrope on the ground, and that's where she has this real idea of like that's how I can get back at him. It's like basically trying to one up him, you know. And then the Charu theme starts as she's thinking. This honestly great. You kind of talked about to me this shot of her like thinking about what she's gonna realize when she realizes what she wants to write about with her village. The kind of like
basically the tile of like the shot of her face.
Her face. She's thinking first, then the kind of overlaid shots of her village. Just like the different shot, like it's just a montage of
superimposition.
Superimposition shots on her face thinking. Because it's a kind of great way of like how can cinema show ways people think, you know. Yeah, superimposition's a great way to do it, you know, like images over a person thinking. I love how her idea, like, we just get this process of her idea changing, too. Because, like, her idea is first called the Cuckoo's Lament or something, because she hears a bird. She's like, oh, maybe I'll do that. And then she starts thinking about her village. The images come, and then she changes. Like, we see her we see her actually outside, too. She actually goes outside. She literally changes where she is. It goes outside. And that's when she gets this idea of her village. And, like,
because I love it. I love it because we see just all these crumbled pieces of paper on the ground.
Yes. And now that I'm mentioning it, because Ray, I mentioned the opening scene, how he ends that scene with a quick zoom out, and he says it's like a flourish at the end of an essay. He does the same thing at this scene, where like once she has this idea of like she's going to write about her village, he zooms out of her, like she's been thinking on the swing, quick zoom out, and that's how he ends the scene, almost like a flourish at the same time. And the next scene is like her throwing the philanthrope at his desk, basically. I love how sudden, like, we get so fast. We don't have to, like, have a scene of, like, her turning in the paper or whatever and, like, getting the results. Like, it's just, like, okay.
She's like, read it.
Just, like, read it. And he's, like, really impressed and stuff. And there's, like, it's, like, a great shot because her hair's down, too.
Yeah.
Her hair's down as she's, like, watching him read it and stuff with her hands on her hips. It's a great shot. And then she also brings him, the embroidered slippers too right after this. Basically now she's like kind of happy again, I guess. Yeah. Like now that she's kind of one upped him, which is funny. But then she brings him the slippers, and she kind of has this like breakdown moment where she starts crying. He's like complimenting her, like, "Oh, you're writing so natural and flowing." And she just basically breaks down and starts crying. Yeah. I'm still not exactly sure why she does. It's still kind of interesting to me, like why she basically like all of a sudden changes, like as she's complimenting him. I mean, as he's complimenting her, she just breaks down because you think she'd be happy, but it's like I don't know. Maybe she's scared of losing him or something. I don't know.
Doesn't she say don't leave?
That's later.
That's later. Okay.
No. This one, she just like I'll never write again.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure why. And there's like great because this is where Amal I think decides he has to leave basically.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
This is like after she leaves the room, all of a sudden she like gets embarrassed. Kind of she leaves, and it just the camera just hangs on his face as he's kind of just thinking about like what the fuck just happened.
Well, he's like, this is dangerous.
There's basically too many emotions going on.
Yes.
And then it cuts to This is basically where it cuts the clueless husband scene, like to show.
Oh
like,
yes, this is
like,
this is a hilarious scene.
The scene of the music room, yeah.
Where the liberals won and everything, and he's like all happy, and they throw this shit in his face, like.
And they're like, wow, you're hiding your wife from us. He's like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
He's like, you don't know about this? Like,
yeah.
Your wife has been writing for a rival newspaper.
No, it's so funny, like when they start raising him too, like cheering him on. Because it's also intercut with like Amal thinking, like Amal and Sharu in the other scene, they can kind of hear the music in the background being played, and they're also kind of like thinking too. And she like asks him like what he's thinking about and stuff again. I forget how it ends with the how it leaves. Yeah, it ends with them cheering, but I forget how it ends with them.
I don't remember how it ends with
it actually does, like, because they're sitting in the room. I remember now, because like the brother. This is where Sharu's brother comes, and he's like, "Oh, I'm leaving for a few days with her wife, but don't worry, we'll be back." And that's how we know, like, they're gonna steal.
They won't be back.
They're not gonna be back, obviously. It's all kind of intercut very like subtly, I guess, between like what's going on in the music room with the husband finding out about the wife. At the same time, is the wife's brother is gonna steal all his money, so it's like he's getting double hit by this family right now, which is kind of crazy.
All these betrayals going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And his brother and his other brother is sleeping with his wife. No, I'm just kidding.
It doesn't get that far.
No.
But then the next scene is where the husband is like at this newspaper, like the paper vendor or whatever, finding out that he hasn't been paid at all.
Yep.
And it's like a business is basically gonna have to come to an end, at least. I don't know if like it's implied because it's also implied the husband's kind of rich too. Like he's not.
No, yeah, he's not.
He's more
not
excited about getting betrayed.
Yeah, it's the betrayal that he's upset about. That he's shocked about.
Yeah. There's these great shots of both Sharu and there's some of my favorite shots in the movie of both Sharu and Soumitra Chatterjee waiting in the hallway.
Yeah.
Like it kind of flips their out of focus. Like I think first he's in the foreground, she's in the background. And they like walk and they flip spot, or the camera flips, I think, and then she's in the foreground, he's in the background. As they're basically just like kind of pacing, waiting for the husband, because like they don't know why he's so late and stuff. But you could say that, but they're also kind of thinking about themselves too, at the same time. You know, depending on how you want to see it. And this is where like she basically breaks down, like, because she's getting so nervous about what's gonna happen, like if Amal's gonna leave, and she's like, whatever happens, promise me you won't go away. And Amal never says anything.
Yeah,
he just he's just silent the whole time. He kind of gets mad at her a little bit too. He's like, just let go, and like, then he like runs downstairs, I think, and he goes and visits the husband directly at the press, where that's where he learns that the press is gonna fail, and like Amal starts to feel like a burden, I guess, at this point too. It's like he's actually really put. It's like one of these classic like cinema examples where one of the characters doesn't know everything that's going on, so like the what he's saying has like a double meaning, because like the husband's like, if a man I put such trust in shows me the slightest respect, what have I got? How can we go on living? And he's like talking about Sharu's brother, but he's like, obviously could be talking about Amal at the same time.
The infidelity.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what makes Amal just like basically, he's like, I gotta.
He's like, I gotta get out of here.
So we get the letter from Amal, like basically abandoning them. Well, not abandoning, just like leaving without telling them, because he doesn't want to face Sharon face to face, obviously. And there's a great shot of her like kind of like panicking the day after, like after realizing like the husband's like, oh, he's left with just a letter saying he doesn't want to be a burden, and she goes to the room. I'm not exactly sure the thought she has, but when she realizes that he left the slippers that he made for her, you can tell like she's basically like heartbroken by it. You know, like that's obviously a sign. You know, I think it's just like so subtle, but it's like so like you could tell like it meant a lot. Like, it hurts a lot to her. But then that's when it cuts to, you could tell this, like this is like I mentioned this in the Apu trilogy, but he loves these kind of time jumps where he doesn't tell you anything. Like it's kind of a subtle time jump. Like you can kind of infer how much time you want, I think. because they're at the beach.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know how soon after all these events are, because they seem more okay now as they're sitting together. And the husband is like, maybe he's coming around. He's like, maybe perhaps I should read some Bunkim now. Like, maybe kind of like showing like he's coming around to her side, And that's when she has this idea that like she can do half of the paper in Bengali, and he can do the politics in English. And he's like, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe they're coming to a good resolution. And like, to me, this would be like the kind of more traditional ending.
Yes,
they come to this traditional ending. But like, that's what makes this movie so interesting. It's like, after they come back, and she sees this letter from Amal and like starts breaking down at the bed because of it and starts crying, like, and the husband sees her. He clearly sees like she still has like feelings for him and stuff, or like what
he never knew about the feelings before.
Also, yes, actually that's important. Like, he's never knew directly. That's when the husband kind of runs away, gets on this carriage, and like we get these intercuts of her kind of waiting for him, husband coming back. And that's this last scene of at the doorway. And like her offering her hand, and she says, I think, come in.
Yeah.
And she smiles. Obviously kind of knowing, first of all, she was the kind of transgressor, kind of making me admitting on that front, at least. Does the husband, I think he does reach out his hand, maybe.
He does, yes.
He does, but then it does freeze. Like, you think we're going to get the...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe... we're getting that optimistic ending.
Yeah, but then
I think the reason Ray cuts that freeze frame... First of all, we should mention, he admits, like, he got this specifically from Porn Blows. This idea.
I was going to ask you, do you think it's the best freeze frame? Like, you think this is the freeze frame,
What are those smaller ones? Oh, La Jetée.
Well, okay, that's not like if it's all freeze frames, it's not really a freeze frame.
Or what about in Sans Soleil?
Oh wait, the
woman's face.
Yeah, she's like, she looks at me, I look at her.
Yeah. I guess it is.
Or are you just talking about ending freeze frames though?
Godard has some freeze frames, right?
I mean, yeah.
I can't remember exact ones.
I mean, this is definitely up there though.
I mean, this is like one of the best. This is definitely top tier freeze frame.
Small Change has one. Jules and Jim has some great ones, but now I remember.
Oh yeah. Okay, you just look at freeze frame.
Yeah. Close Up has one.
Oh, Close Up has.
Oh, Close Up has a great one.
Close Up is like amazing.
Oh my god. Honestly, it's similar to this one. Too.
Yeah, honestly, damn.
It makes you think about the whole movie, kind of.
Damn, yeah.
Like how a freeze frame can reframe a movie, almost.
Yeah.
But
just by being like a kind of like preserving a moment in time.
And let me read what Ray said about this ending, and also so Tagore in his story, apparently quote, let me read the quote. So Tagore ends with a single word. Bhupati is about to go to Mysore, and Sharu suddenly tells him, "Take me with you." Her husband hesitates, and so Sharu says "Tak," which means "let it be." So that's how the story ends, where basically like. She says, "Take me with you," and then the husband hesitates, and then she says, "Okay, just let it be." That's how the story ends. And so Ray says, quote, "That was a kind of very abrupt logical conclusion, and I wanted a visual equivalent of Tak. Instead of the word, an image, which would suggest that the two are about to be reconciled, and then are prevented from doing so. I couldn't end with a word because I have a feeling that the really crucial moments in a film should be wordless. It's very difficult to express what was precisely meant to be achieved with a series of still shots. But it was something that told me instinctively it would be the right conclusion for the film. I can't explain beyond that." And I think just to kind of conclude this episode, like what Blake was saying about the whole feeling, like I think that's this ending too. Like it has this feeling of like an uneasy kind of conclusion,
Yeah.
Like maybe they are going to come together, but it's not just that doesn't mean everything is right.
No, it's never going to be the same.
Yes. I don't know. Like
I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing.
Oh, I'm not saying but it's just a statement of fact. Like
it won't be the same.
It's different now.
Is that a good or bad thing?
I don't know.
Will it be better because of these things, or will there always be kind of this kind of apartness because of them? This kind of
which I mean, a lot of times adultery does have this distrust that even if.
But was this adultery?
No,
I don't know.
I mean, in some cases it could be. It's more. It's like a kind of a.
Is it?
It's not a literal adultery, but is it?
It is emotional in a way.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
could say.
Especially, like if she's never shown this kind of emotion about him too, like the way she's breaking down, crying about him. You know, I don't know the thoughts he's had. We don't really get that perspective. You know, especially with this freeze frame. I really do think it's one of the best though in terms of how it makes us think about the ending. But yeah, that's and also that's I think another aspect of, because the title of the movie is called Charulata, but the ending after the freeze frames, the title is called from the story The Broken Nest. It's interesting he puts out the ending too. Is he saying like this is a broken nest? You know, at this point, you know, like he's saying there's some kind of hesitation. Like you're saying, is there something broken now that's like can't be repaired? Maybe I don't know what he's saying there. I know Blake, you're saying it's more optimistic, but I don't think there's one right answer to that.
I don't know either.
But I think that's it for this week's episode. Next week we're doing this week was Mukherjee's 2 episodes. Next week we're doing Tagore, Sharmila Tagore's The Hero and Days and Nights in the Forest. Days and Nights in the Forest, I have to think about the Wes Anderson stealing it for Astro City the scene. But also, the reason I'm bringing Wes Anderson is because he literally uses Shahruk's theme in Darjeeling Unlimited.
Oh yeah, he does do that.
And then I was going through that soundtrack, and like half the songs erase scores from his various movies. Like you gotta go look at the soundtrack; it's kind of crazy. Because I only thought he'd only use that one song, and I was like, damn, I don't remember.
Is there any like
Ray
is there any like writings that Wes Anderson wrote about him, or like?
I don't know. I gotta look more.
Like, has he ever talked about him like super directly?
I'm sure like on some director's commentary, he must have talked about the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because I was like, damn, there's so many Ray songs on the soundtrack. But yeah, that's it for this week. Until next week, hope to see you floating through the clouds.
আমি চিনি গো চিনি তোমারে ও গো বিদেশিনী আমি চিনি গো চিনি তোমারে ও গো বিদেশিনী তুমি থাকো সিন্ধু পারে তুমি থাকো সিন্ধু পারে ও গো বিদেশিনী ও গো বিদেশিনী
আমার সাজাপান খেতে নেই বুঝি? খাবে না?
না দেখেছি শারদ প্রাতে তোমায় দেখেছি মাধবী রাতে তোমায় দেখেছি শারদ প্রাতে তোমায় দেখেছি মাধবী রাতে তোমায় দেখেছি হৃদি মাঝারে তোমায় দেখেছি হৃদি মাঝারে ও গো বিদেশিনী আমি আকাশে পাতিয়া কান শুনেছি শুনেছি তোমারি গান আমি আকাশে পাতিয়া কান শুনেছি শুনেছি তোমারি গান আমি তোমারে সঁপেছি প্রাণ গো বিদেশিনী আমি তোমারে সঁপেছি প্রাণ গো বিদেশিনী ভুবন ভ্রমিয়া শেষে আমি এসেছি নূতন দেশে ভুবন ভ্রমিয়া শেষে আমি এসেছি নূতন দেশে আমি অতিথি তোমারি দ্বারে আমি অতিথি তোমারি দ্বারে ও গো বিদেশিনী ও গো বিদেশিনী ও গো বিদেশিনী ও গো বিদেশিনী আমি চিনি গো চিনি তোমারে ও বউ ঠাকুরানী।